morning, Chica. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning on this Friday. This is probably one of the one of the days you can really say, thank God it's Friday. Because this is the day we celebrate Good Friday. Just for those that don't know, Good Friday is when Jesus Christ gave his life up, meaning he was hung on a cross and he died on a Friday. They just celebrate that today because Easter is coming, right? So let's just embark on not just Good Friday, but we're going to talk about divine will versus permissive will. So I looked up what divine will is, right? And divine will is the volition of God, which is like his knowledge. It is pure and is simply actual and absolute independence of all extra divine things, right? And then this is what permissive will is, that which is granted by God to satisfy the desires in the heart of believers, craving or desires outside of God's will. Right. So now I also broke down the words divine. Good morning, Diane. Divine and permissive. Divine is an adjective. It is of or from or like God or a God. The informal part is delightful or excellent. And the noun part is providence or God, cleric or theologian, right? The permissive meaning, when it's that singular word, is granting or tending to grant permission. Deficient in frames or control. It's indulgent. It lacks a behavior that others might disapprove of. More lenient, loosey-goosey with rules. Right. So let's just go down the lane of talking about what divine will is. Okay, so divine will is something is a God given will, a will that is placed for most people inside of the hearts of those that believe that God is with them and working in them and working through them, right? So on this day, we're going to just say that Jesus was working God's divine will. How do we know that he was working divine will? Because Jesus was the Christ, right? So he's the Christ, and he's doing all of these spectacular things, perfect in the eyes of God, right? He's not. He's the only one that's documented of not sinning. He is he is perfect in every aspect of the word, which for a lot of people was unbelievable and unachievable. But in this instant, he did everything he was supposed to do. He came here to not change the laws, but to fulfill the laws and fulfill prophecies, right? So that was Jesus being divine. So today, like I said, he ends up being crucified. So he became, some people may say he became a martyr, but for the believers of Christianity, he is a sacrificial lamb. He is the lamb in the bush compared to the old the Old Testament ram in the bush when Abraham was about to sacrifice his son, and God said, "No, don't do that," and gave him a ram in the bush. So that was God returning the favor to man, right? That is what divine will is. That's what the divine attribute of what Jesus did. This is why many of the believers believe that you don't have to sacrifice anymore. There's no more sacrificing because God gave his son to be sacrificed as Abraham would have gave the blessed the blessed person in Isaac, even though he had a son Ishmael. But Isaac was promised blessings beyond blessings. And Abraham, through his faith, was willing to sacrifice that being. And, God told him don't do that and return the favor by going through Jesus Christ. And the rest of the story is history, right? But let's just say, do we have divine will in us? Do we know what God wants for us, right? If God wants us to be in his will, he's gonna show us the way to do it. And I believe the life of Christ was a divine will, right? So what did Christ do? Christ was loving. He was compassionate. He was humble. He had he bared the good fruit of a divine person. He came here not to harm people, but to help people, right? That is the smallest thing that we can do as far as being divine. So if we are walking around here doing those little things, as far as checking on people, uh, you know, checking the sick and shut in, things of that nature, that is a divine will, right? Because no one should be feeling in a lonely state. No one should be uh, 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 feeling like they're isolated from an entire world. If they got family, there's people that's going through things, right? They may feel isolated. They may isolate themselves. Even if they do that, your first inclination is always to check up on people, right? So that is a divine will. Another divine will is that, like I said, go on and help somebody, right? If you know somebody's going through something, if you know somebody is going through a illness, far as mental illness, they're feeling depressed, or they feel bipolar, or they feel, schizophrenic, you would try to do any and everything possible to help this person get well, whether if it's going to a therapist with them, if it's, just the mere suggestion of it, you are doing something that is a divine. To where if you are living through a permissive will, you would just allow the person to keep going through what they're going through. You can see all the signs, you can see all the attributes, you can see the strangeness in a person, and just allow them to go through what they're going through. That is permissive will. That is the opposite of being divine, which means that you are allowing somebody to just go through that. It's also a thing that, it's just crazy how we could just sit here and just allow certain things to go on in life, right? The permissive will is allowing all of this goofiness to go on in life. all of this back and forth, all of this fighting, all of this nitpicking about things. That is a permissive will. That is so permissive because we tend to say, let's just mind our business, right? And that's fine, right? Because in all reality, it's not your business. But if you want the best for somebody, you're gonna do whatever you can to like intervene and try to get in the way and stop things of that nature, right? You may have to pull a person to the side and say, listen, man, you're better than this. You don't have to go through these situations. There's somebody here to help you. There's somebody here to say that I'm on your side. Let's do it together. In other words, you're willing to sacrifice yourself, your time, your money, your efforts, your comfort, just to go on out there and help somebody else. That is a divine will. I don't want to seem like I'm tooting my horn right now, but I think this is a divine action of me for me to just come here and say, you know what? I want to be here for anybody that's going through a situation. If you want to pray, let's pray about it. If you want to vent, I'm your shoulder, I'm your ear. I'm here for you. That is a divine thing. And people will look at that as if that is not it's a permissive thing to where, you know, people will disapprove of me going out and doing such a thing, right? There's plenty of us that knows that there are people that are really going through something and we really want the best for them. So is it a divine thing to get in the way, or not get in the way, to assist somebody through the situation, or is it just permissive that we just sit back and watch them go through what they go through? I always talk about being Christ-like. I don't think being Christ-like can allow you to sit there and watch somebody go through a pain or a suffering. I don't think that you can sit there, if you are full of love, to sit there and watch somebody beat themselves up over things that they're going through that they may feel like they don't have no control over. I believe that if you are in your divine will, you're willing to give up something to help somebody who doesn't have anything. Like, some people don't have the space in their mind to combat their mental illnesses, right? Some people are really just going through it. Some people are surrendering because they don't have a fight. And if you're on the divine will, you're gonna do whatever you can to help them. You're gonna sit there, you know what? Come on, let's go. I'll go with you. If you feel comfortable having a conversation with me, I'll go with you, and you can have this conversation with a professional. If you don't feel like I can do it, let's go to somebody that's a professional and we can go ahead and help them. That's a divine will. What a permissive will just be like a yes person, right? Man, you all right, man. You got this, man. Yo, let's go on out there and make you feel better. Let's go out there and go get some drinks and things like that. That's the permissive will. And that's, for a lot of people, the divine will is a permissive will, and the permissive will is a divine will. It's like we're flipping the scripts on these two entities or these wills. Because there's a lot of people that say, you know what? It's divine to stay out of it. It's divine not to help them. It's divine to watch somebody suffer through their trials and tribulations and not give a piece of advice or a helping hand or a shoulder to lean on. And how did we get to this point? How is it possible that we allowed the roles to be switched? Good morning, Scorpio Mama. Right? We allowed the roles to be switched because the ways of the world is ruling our everyday life. The ways of the world tells you, you know what? We got to go out there. We got to kill ourselves to make money, to make ends meet. Thank you. We got to do everything for the ways of the world just in order to survive or maintain or get through the day, or however you see it fit, right? But while we're doing that, we don't have no peace in our life. And peace may seem permissive to everybody because they're so busy going through the hustle and bustles of daily activities that No peace is divine. It's like I say all the time. Some people peace is chaos. And if your peace is chaos, that is certainly permissive because God don't want you to be in a chaotic state, He doesn't want you to be in the mumbo jumbo mode, the hustle and bustle mode. That's not, God is a pace person. God is a person of time and thought and patience and accuracy and things of that level, right? That's where a divine will person goes. A divine person is going to sit there and accumulate time. He's going to be accurate in an assessment. He's going to sit back and wait for the right time to say something or the perfect opportunity to give you the advice that you need, to where a divine person will listen to understand. A permissive person will hear to respond. So to me, that is the way you can tell which will that people are operating on. Like if somebody was to come in here right now and say, I need prayer, I would literally stop what I'm doing right now and give them prayer. Miss T, is it okay if I explain the situation of how we met real quick? I'm gonna wait until you type into the chat and say okay, because it's a point that I have to prove with that, right? So I've done it plenty of times with other people when I would be on somebody's chat as a moderator or just in the chat, right? Okay, she said yes. So the other day, Miss T, I was on Keymosh's live, right? I was scrolling. I met Keymosh for the first time, and Miss T came through, and she was like she wasn't feeling good. There was a certain thing that was going on in her life, and because she had opened up herself and said such a thing, I just immediately went into prayer for her, right? And she was so receptive of it because she can answer herself. Maybe she felt it was genuine. Maybe she felt that the prayer was sincere. Maybe she felt that because a stranger just came out of the woodworks and just prayed for her on site, she could have felt that that was a divine thing, right? To where if there was somebody else in the chat, they could have just said, I hope things get well. Sometimes we got to go above the means, right? That's the divine part of a person that lives a Christ-like life. Because you could just say, sometimes good morning could lighten the day. Sometimes good morning day. Sometimes you have a beautiful smile that could brighten somebody's day. But sometimes we got to go a little bit deeper, right? We got to get to the point to where it says, you know what, Miss T, after I pray this prayer for you, I want you to receive it and know that everything is going to work in your favor. That could have lifted her up and made her day not even a whole lot better. It could have made her look, her looking points of the day, her aspect of the day change into a way of, I don't have to feel this way. It encourages me to go ahead and put my best foot forward. That is a divine will, to where a permissive will is like, oh well, hey, how you doing? Okay, have a good day. It's more, permissive will is more like being passive. It's like, hey, I just hope you just get through the day. Let's just get through the day and everything's gonna be fine. No, when you're in your divine will, you can speak life, right? You can speak life into your day. You can speak life into a very second that you're going through something, right? I will not let this cold beat me. I will not let this arthritis keep me in the bed, right? And when you speak it, you'll respond to yourself like, come on, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna make this happen right now. And you'll probably get out of bed and you'll start flexing your bones and your muscles. And now you're like, okay, that was just a moment. All right, I just defeated that arthritis attack, right? If you're diabetic, you say, you know what? I am going to defeat this. I am going to make my pancreas work in a way that it makes me not need medicine. And people overcome those things because the power of life and death is in the tongue. So The power of divine and permissive will is actually in your tongue. You can speak life and you can curse life. You can just allow somebody to go through, and you can allow somebody to feel encouraged and uplift them, encourage them, improve their mind state. That's the difference between divine and permissive will. But you got to have it within your guts, within your soul, within your mind, and within your heart, to allow the differences of divine will and permissive will to be seen in your everyday life, right? Yes, the placebo effect is real, Tay. You're correct. And you know, you are a person of great understanding, so you're gonna know where this is going, right? Because at the end of the day, it's okay to help people, but it's not okay to be abused because you are in your divinity, in your God-like form, not form, but in your God-like walk. Let's just go with that. Your God-like walk. Pray for my son. Okay. But let's just do it this way then, Scorpio. Father God, we ask that you, good morning, Tay. Father God, we ask that you come on through and help Scorpio mama go through a situation with her child. We may not know the situation. We may not know if it's physical, mentally, or emotionally. But we ask that you put your healing hands on all three of those situations, all three of those mindsets, the trinity of a body. We ask that you touch her son in a way that he receives the healing that he needs to go forward throughout this day and every day. And as he goes forward, may you hear the prayer of his mother, and may you hear the prayers of his family and loved ones. May it uplift them, and may it give him the courage to go forward in life. We ask that you do this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Right? That's a divine thing to do. Whether people agree with what I just said, it's neither here or there. It's the fact that you took the time to reach out for a person that you may or may not know. We're gonna believe in that prayer, and we're gonna know that her son is gonna be healed because they're gonna receive the prayer. We believe and receive that, right? That's a divine will, to where when somebody just asks that question, nobody would reach out. Not nobody in the chat, but people in general. You understand what I'm saying? And that's the thing that I'm talking about. When you walking into a permissive will, you allow things to be as normal as it's supposed to be, instead of when you're divine, is everything okay? Would you like to talk about it? Feel free. If you don't, then keep it moving, right? Because a lot of us need that sometimes. A lot of us need somebody to say, you know what? I just need to talk to somebody. I just need somebody to hear my frustrations and allow me to vent to that person, because if I don't, I'm going to take somebody's head off. I would rather you be free of the mind than incarcerated in the mind, because your incarceration of mind could lead you to incarceration of life, because you may do something to damage somebody, especially if it's towards a person that done you wrong. I know people talk about, Jesus and the turning the other cheeks and all of that things. It takes a lot of strength to turn the other cheek, because when you turn the other cheek, you're turning down that anger and frustration inside of you. It's not literal to give the person the other cheek to smack it. No, you turn it to the other cheek to calm yourself down. Because if you don't calm yourself down, like I just said, you may take their head off. I gave my life for my kids, and that's the sacrifice. See, some people might say that's what you're supposed to do. You're a mother or you're a father, but to sacrifice for somebody you love is a divine thing, because that's already inside of you, right? You do what's best for your children. You do what's best for your boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife, mother or father, because that love is what decides the sacrificing attributes in you, right? For example, I wanted to speak about this last night, right? But I knew that, my people would be on live. I don't want to make it seem like I'm competing with people, right? So I said, let me hold my thing back so they can do what they do, right? And it's not because, it'll be a competition level. It's just the polite and kind thing to do because you want them to get their thoughts off before they lose it, just like people will want you to do the same. The Bible says, do unto others as you want done unto you, right? Tay was talking about that last night with Word. It's a karma effect. So the divine thing to do, if you love people, if you give the caution and the compassion to people, it should be done unto you. That is a divine thing. To where if you just permissively doing things, you're doing things, let's just say half-ass. You're half-stepping on doing everyday bits of life, right? Because when you doing things permissively, you're doing the shortcut things. You're taking the shortest route. You're going around certain things now. You're going around the corners and instead of just going straight through certain situations, right? That's the permissive way of doing things because you're doing things half-assed. Nobody comes on YouTube with half-baked content. If it's half-baked content, you gotta understand that it may not reach the people to where when it's a heartfelt thing. When you're doing things out of the kindness of your heart, that's a divine thing. When you do things because you genuinely care for people, that's a divine thing. To where you're doing things permissively, you're all right. I know I'm gonna get something back out of this. That's why when you do things for people, you shouldn't expect it in return because when you're divine, you may understand not everybody has that same compassion as you, and you may not get it back, right? And just like how we're sitting here today and having this conversation, Scorpio Mama is now receiving the love that there's people behind her. There's people that want that blessing to be given to her son. There's people that's here to support her as she is going through whatever it is her and her family is going through. And that's a divine thing because we are not that cold to where we don't want the best for people, right? A permissive person might say, yeah, all right, listen, I hope you get well. And you can hear it in their voice. They don't mean what the hell they're saying, right? There are people that's going through, there's people that really live the life that, I really don't care about what you're going through. I'm worried about me. There are a lot of selfish people. You cannot be in a divine mode and be selfish. Divine is selfless. Permissive is more selfish. That's the best way I can put it into the format, because when you're permissive, you only worrying about what you're going to gain out of it. When you thinking of a permissive person, they all right, listen, I'm going to go to work because I need the money, right? And if a person is doing things, a volunteer person, he's not doing it for money, right? I'll give you an example, right? I used to volunteer at an after-school program, right? And when I volunteered at the after-school program, I would do basketball. But the point was for them, in order to get to this basketball court, you guys got to do what you need to do, kids. You got to do your homework. You got to make sure it's completed. It got to be checked. So that way we can make it easier before you go home to your parents, and your parents can have a normal functioning evening, meaning they don't have to check homework. They don't have to, they may have to feed you, of course, but they don't have to do the homework and go over it and this, that, and the third. That's the thing when you do things voluntarily, right? Because you're doing it to help people. Now, there are people that's getting paid to do that, but when you take your time, when you give your dividends of time to somebody, that is a divine thing to do. When Tay gets up there and shows you how to cook vegan food, that's her way of telling you that she wants you guys to be healthy. That's her way of telling you guys that there's another avenue besides the regular way to go. That's her giving her dividend. That's her divine will to say, you know what, there's another way, guys, and let me show y'all how to do that, right? She takes the time out of her day to do that. When Anti comes on live and she has a conversation, as a life coach, and then she'll allow her granny, I'll put it like that. She allows her granny to come on to show y'all how to get through a day and entertain you at the same time. That is them doing a divine thing for other people. It's not for themselves. It's not selfish. It's no I in team for them. They work in a unit. They work together. There is no selfishness. They are giving to other people. And that's the divine thing to do. You know, it's just the fact that when you are doing things for a divine reason, you don't look at it for yourself. You don't look at it as your end result. The end result is for other people. When it's a permissive will, you're adding yourself into the equation. You're doing it for not their satisfaction, your satisfaction. If they get satisfied, you might feel that's a plus. But when you do it for a divine reason, you are expecting that person to receive it wholeheartedly, open armed, right? No closed mind, no closed heart, no closed arm, no clenched fist. When you do it divinely, you can wiggle your fingers. When you do it permissively, you're on guard, right? Because the expectation of doing the right thing, you look for a right result. It's the karma thing that Tay Word was talking about. It's the karma thing. When you do good for others, you want them to receive it, and hopefully it comes back to you in return. But when you do it permissively, you're doing it to say, you know what, it better come back to me. That's not even how life goes. But because we do certain things in a permissive will, there's things that are out of order, right? For example, if we go deeper into a divine and permissive will, right, we understand that, sexual activities, it allows you to get close to somebody, right? Some people will call it soul ties. Okay. Now, when it's permissive, you just doing it to do it, to get off, right? And now when that baby comes out, if y'all not cautious with yourself, that baby's gonna have a new life, right? Is a new life into your equations, right? So you got to work hard to make it that permissive decision, a divine one, to bless for your child to gain the blessing. It's like you trying to bring it over for it to work in the child's favor. That's where it becomes a divine work for you guys. Because I believe nobody wants to have a kid struggling unless you one of those permissive people that don't give a damn about nothing. Right? You want the best for your children. So you try to do everything. You will sacrifice everything in a permissive situation to make your child's life a divine situation. Meaning you want everything to go the way it's supposed to go, right, in a right form and fashion. Excuse me. You want that child to, receive the love that it's supposed to have. You want to nurture it if you're a mom. You want to protect it if you're a dad. You want it to flourish if you're both parents. You want those things. That's a divine thing to do, even though it came out of a permissive act. Because when you're not in love with a person, or you're not feeling love for a person, and you have those type of activities, it's just a permissive thing to do. When all reality, soul ties was the actual marriage in the beginning of all of life, right? That's why a lot of people, if you go through history, they were virgins until when they had sex with a person, they ended up being with said person. That's through all of history. That was the original marriage. There was no, walking down the aisle and all of that other stuff. The intimacy is divine. The sexual act is permissive. Y'all understand what I'm saying here? That's just the way that one thing could be in two different directions. Because when you love somebody, it's like, okay, that is your ultimate feeling. That is the ultimate goal when you love somebody, to give yourself to somebody. And for most human beings, being intimate was the only way to give yourself to somebody, to sacrifice the two people to become one. That is a divine thing, to work it together in that format. Now, when we do it loosey-goosey as permissive, the meaning of permissive was stated earlier, those other situations may occur. You just having sex. You just getting off. She may be getting off, or he may be. You understand what I'm saying? It's not for the act of the other person. It's for you. And that's what a permissive will get you. If you're not doing nothing to embetter somebody for the sake of themselves, that is a permissive thing. You're doing it for clout. That's why people come on here, they clout chase. They're not doing it out of their kindness, out of their heart. Some people, when you do feel like you're doing something out of the kindness of your heart, that makes you a divine person. Not a divine person, but you're working toward the divine will, because you are giving your time, you are giving your thoughts, you are giving the information, your knowledge. You're giving what you have to somebody to embetter them, to empower them. That is a divine thing. The greatest sacrifice that you could possibly do is to give to somebody that's in need. And you're not doing it for like a tax write-off. That's a permissive will. You understand what I'm saying? You're doing it because you genuinely understand that person is in need. You are doing it because that person, you know that person is truly lacking in that situation. Bronze, good morning. And because of that, you're going to do what you do out of the compassion of your heart. Like I said, that's been going through the chat throughout this entire life. It was going, like when I met Miss T, it was going on in that chat because you genuinely want the best for somebody. It's not, it's not a selfish act that you want the best for somebody. It's not a selfish act that you really want to contribute into a person's greatness, into a person's divine attributes. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you do it, just like it's like some people, all right, I supported the person, let me keep moving, right? That's not a divine thing. You add to the situation. Hey, Tay, you may, this is an example. Hey, Tay, you might want to add a little salt and pepper. You know what I mean? Oh, I forgot to add salt. Yeah, put some more seasoning on there. Oh my God, that tasted so much better. Thank you, Gary. It's because you want that product to be a better version of what it is for the person that's going to take that product. And you could have just sat there and said nothing. I remember alive when, Tay was so worried about she did too much and she had just enough time to take away a certain entity of the product, and she enjoyed it. And people will enjoy it because they see her effort was heartfelt. It was divine. She really took the time to delete a portion of the product because she thought it was too much for a person that was going to eat it, even if it was just herself. You understand? We got to understand that being divine is not for you. It's for the person that it is intended for, right? That's where religion messed up. They made religion so bad, they wanted the end product instead of the end product being for the people. This is why I turned into a Christ-like person and not follow Christianity, because Christianity wants it to be the end product for themselves. They want to further cause their religion. But if you're Christ-like, that can touch any and everybody. It could touch a Buddhist. It could touch a Hindi. It could touch an actual Jew or Hebrew or Muslim, because that is a divine thing to do in the first place, to love people in spite of their flaws. You can't just like somebody because they look good. That's a permissive will. Oh, I think he's cute. Let me holler at him. Oh, she got a fatty back there. Let me holler at her. That's a permissive thing. That woman could be going through something. That man could be going through some things. But because it's about you and you adding more, you might be adding more to her plate than she can bear. Instead of getting to know the person, you just want to smash. Instead of helping the person, you want to hinder them. That's the difference between divine and permissive. I know people like, yo, he just came out and just prayed for this lady. He don't even know her. That's the point. Because somebody asks, and asks you, you shall receive. That's a divine thing. If you're doing it for the right reason, it's a divine reason. You know what I mean? It's just so much that we can go down the rabbit hole, but I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I just want to make it as plain and simple to show you the difference between a divine will and a permissive will. You know what I mean? That's why that's another reason why, religion is so crazy, right? The religion, like in Christianity, they tell you, you must tithe, right? Bring all the tithe into the storehouse. But they forget the part to where You're supposed to do it with a cheerful heart. You're supposed to do it because you know in your heart is the right thing to do. They turned that into you must instead of you should. You understand what I'm saying? When you must do something, it feels, it feels forced. Instead of them saying you should give out the kindness of your heart. I should help somebody because somebody's in need. Not you must help them because you see them in a situation. There's an order to things in life, right, Tay? There is there is an order of thing, right? But you got to understand, in order to follow the order, you got to do it because you think it's the right thing to do. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. You understand? If you don't feel like it's right, there's no need to do it, right? Because if it's wrong, why do it unless you getting something out of it? That's the difference between divine will and permissive will. I'm breaking it down in a certain way so everybody can understand the difference. Word, good morning, right? It's just the fact that when you do things for the right reasons, right, you got to understand. When you do things out of a divine reason, evilness is going to be spoken of. When you do things out of a permissive will, 9 times out of 10, it won't be spoken evil of because a lot of us is doing the same thing anyway. A divine person looks like an alien. A divine person looks like a weirdo because you're not following the norm. When you're doing everything that everybody else is doing in a permissive will of state, it don't matter. It won't, man, that ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Oh, so he just cursed out. That ain't nothing. Instead of saying, yo, they deserve it, whether or not they deserve it or not, it doesn't even matter because they're going to say that's a normal thing to do. That's what we do every day. We curse people out. Instead of saying, you know what? That lady may deserve it. That man may deserve it. He came out his mouth wrong. She came out of her mouth wrong. But when you're doing things out of the divine, all right, I see you going through something. Do you want to talk about it? If not, I'm gonna walk away from you because I don't want this to turn into a confrontation to where I get my point off to make it seem like I'm right. Because if you do it divinely, you're going to show that you're right in the first place. If you walk away from that, it's going to be right because they're going to be arguing with themselves. They're going to turn themselves crazy by trying to prove that your divinity is actually wrong in the first place. It's a reason why the Pharisees and the Sadducees was going crazy because they couldn't find nothing else to chastise Jesus with. Oh, he's blasphemous. He ain't said nothing blasphemous. He just said, I am sent. I am is he who sent me. I am my Father's son. I am God's son. Oh, what was wrong with what he said? We are all products of God, so we are all sons and daughters of God. But because they were so inflicted on looking at themselves as higher powers, they went and did what they did, which is why people are celebrating Good Friday today, whether it's the right day or not. The fact of the story is the man died because people wanted him out of the way because he was doing everything to fulfill a prophecy. What? What's going on? Okay. Well, we gotta talk about that later. But yeah, because at the end of the day, you might have a stalker word. You know why? Because you're doing the right thing and somebody's trying to take you down. Right? Somebody's trying to make your good evil spoken of. Just like Jesus. Oh, he said he was God. And he turned that blind man, he made him see. And he made the wine at the wedding. And he made the deaf hear. And he put the ear back on the man that was trying to arrest him. That's a divine thing. Listen, I'm not here to harm anybody. I'm here to help. When you're on your divine will, you're here to help people. You're not here to hinder. You're here to help. You're not here to harm. You're here to help. Right? And when you're permissive, you can allow things to go the way it's supposed to go on a normal attribute. Right? Because there's so many people that's going through what they're going through, and so many people are just walking by. It's like when you see the homeless person, right? And you see, they asking for food, they asking for money. And then he turns around, you turn around and do the right thing and say, let me go take you, get something to eat. And that same person who was just asking for money is going to tell you, nah, I don't want to eat. Well, then that means you didn't need the money for that reason. So what were you getting the money for? You understand what I'm saying? We got to stop turning divine wills and situations into permissive ones. We got to stop putting ourselves into an I mode and say, I want to help, instead of I'm going to gain some satisfaction out of the work that I'm getting ready to do. Because at the end of the day, if you are teaching somebody, there is no gratification for teaching, except that you are doing, good morning 415, except for the fact that you are giving somebody a piece of knowledge that they once didn't have. The only thing we get paid for is, the only thing you get out of it if it gets passed on down the line. You know what I mean? That's what a divine person would do. That's what their expectation is, right? If the word continues to give out all the information that he has, all he can hope for is that people use it to their advantage and give it to somebody else that needs it. Because at the end of the day, you get to the point to where that's all we can do. We can only give the advice and hope that they use it and then apply it and then say, this is what worked for me. That's what a testimony is for. This is what worked for me. I overcame this because I fought back the anger and frustrations of somebody doing me harm. Or I overcame this because I got up and worked the kinks out of my body. Or whatever your testimony is. That's a divine thing to do. It wasn't permissive because it could be, it can be permissive because you turn it into a you format instead of you overcoming. It's just like, yo, I'm just doing that to show everybody wrong, right? It's for you to prove a point, but the point should be that you overcame it, not because somebody told you that you can't do it. It's just the fact that you did it. It's not to show somebody you going absolutely wrong. It's the fact that you trying to do the right thing and get yourself together is what the divine situation should be. Not because you trying to tell somebody, you know what, I'm going to leave that alone. You know, that's why, I was telling people, I may have came off wrong with my situation when I was talking to my 33 brother, like, yo, let her have it, right? But I was saying that because I wanted him to understand she ain't gonna do nothing, but that person ain't gonna do nothing but drive themselves crazy. If they're not crazy already. And all you gotta do is just sit back and say, you know what? I still give my helping hand. Sometimes the divine thing to do is just to kill him with kindness, which he was trying to do. But when the situation is showing that it ain't gonna stop, you gotta say, you know what? My fallback game is on 100. Meaning I gotta let you rock with what you rocking with. You understand what I'm saying? You can't save somebody that don't want to be saved. They already have it in their mind that they're ready to jump. You still try, but once you try and you can actually visually see it, whether it's a physical vision or emotional vision or a spiritual vision, listen, I did what I could. And that's a divine thing to do. That's why he's my 33 brother. That's why I will defend him when he's right, and if he's wrong. Or I think we got to look at this in another aspect, because we ain't looking at it all the way around. We looking with it with blinders on. You understand what I'm saying? Tay, Tay, go to bed. But it's just the fact that when you do things in the right format, the right result is going to come for you and for that person. It's like you getting blessed twice. When you do it permissively, you're doing it for your own satisfaction. You're only doing it for your own gratification. And for me, that's the difference between a divine will and a permissive will. You're doing it for others when you're divine, when it's a divine matter. And when you're doing it permissively, you're doing it more for yourself. Yeah, that other person may get it, but you're doing it to say, yeah, I told you I can get you off of that. I told you I can show you the way. Instead of you just saying, you know what? If you apply this to your life, you can go ahead and give that to somebody else. Divine wants the things to be passed. The permissive may want to keep it for themselves. And for me, that's the difference between the two. And that's the reason why we got to understand what the actual story of Christ this day is really about for those that are celebrating this day. I'll put it to y'all like this. If y'all all got children, right? Y'all got school age children. How many of your children are not in school, right? Today. Because if they are in school, they're just going to show you, it's going to show you like they're not even taking this attribute to show the sacrifice that somebody did for everybody else. They give you one day for Veterans Day, and now they want people to now not really recognize Veterans Day, right? Memorial Day they want to make that the beginning of summer, right? But they don't want nobody to take the time off. They want you to still go to work and not get time and a half or a double pay. They just worried about themselves instead of, celebrating the people that gave their life for you to have this day to celebrate. That's a permissive person. That's a person that don't understand that it's not about us. There's people that made sacrifices for us to have this conversation. It's people for us that gave their life for us to have time to spend with your family, right? Hold on. Word said, bro, it's getting weird, bro. I'm done with it, but I'm done. I was trying to save them. You can't. There's a song that said, don't save them. They don't want to be saved. How could you save somebody that don't want to be saved, right? It's just like the two people on the cross next to Christ, right? You got one that says, I understand who you are. And he's like, the other one like, what you talking to this dude for? He up here with us, right? And there was people mocking Jesus at the same time. You the savior, get yourself down, jump, save yourself. No, he wasn't doing it for himself in the first place. And that's what made him have the battle on the cross. Lord, not my will, but let thy will be done. Why am I still up here though? He had a conversation with himself talking about, why am I suffering? Oh, wait a minute. This is not my will, but let your will be done. That's why people say he was fighting the God-like entity and the flesh entity in himself, because he's having a conversation. I can really get down if I want to, but this ain't for me. The sacrifices that we make for people allows it to be a divine will and a permissive will, a divine action or permissive action. It's just the way that's why I rock with the word. The word is one of them people that will really sit there, take the time and really try to meet people where they are, right? He's now sick of it because it's like, he's like, yo, nobody's understanding what I'm trying to do. Nobody's trying to understand I will meet you there, and they're giving me their butts to kiss. So of course it's going to turn him away from being who he is for a second. We're all human beings, but the fact that he's a human being doesn't mean that he's not on his divine path. It doesn't mean that Tay's not on her divine path. It doesn't mean Anti's not on her divine path. It doesn't mean Scorpio is not on her divine path. And Cheeky and whoever else is. It doesn't mean that if you are having a fleshly moment. The fact that you constantly have a fleshly moment is what makes it permissive. You can have it. You could quite like, why am I doing this? And I know they're not going to receive that. But if you go back and continue to do what you was doing, which was being on your divine path, that does not make you a permissive person. It doesn't mean that you can be tried either. Because you can have that moment to where, yo, I'm going to put this divine cloak down and I'm going to punch you in your face. Or I'm going to holler at you in a way that you don't want to holler. It happens to everybody. You strive for perfection. It doesn't mean that you actually going to get there, but the more that you strive for it, the more that you can calm yourself down out of a situation to where if you're permissive, you're ready to jump at it each and every day. You understand? You got to understand that there's people out here in this world that want your divinity to themselves, and they will try to make you permissive at the same time. I don't want you to share your wisdom and understanding. I want you to just give it to me and me alone. You are so wise. Everybody don't need that. Everybody need to keep that for themselves. That's a selfish person. And a selfish person could never be in their divinity. They will always be in a permissive state, because at the end of the day, if God wanted to, God is allowing, if we have free will, those are the two choices that we have. We could look out for others or we could look out for ourselves. That's the divine and permissive will. That's the best way I can put that in the attribute that I can put it in. You can look out for others or you can look out for yourself. The end goal is for them or the end goal is for you. Right? And when you have the information, when you become a content creator, when you become this person that wants to be the helping hand, you become the divine person for somebody else. Right? We don't come up here and say, yo, listen, we ain't talking no more until my Cash App gets full. There's a lot of us that we got the Cash App up there, but we ain't suggesting that you do nothing with it. It's just up there. If you want to donate, God bless you, right? But we're not demanding it. We're not insisting that you donate. You understand? Because at the end of the day, your works will allow people to give to you freely. That's a divine thing. You thought Jesus was out there just starving himself every day? No, he going, here, Jesus, here's a piece of bread. He did a collection for 5,000 people and he stretched it out. That's a divine thing. When you're doing things in the right order, you will get rewarded in the right order. When you do things permissively, it'll be an instantaneous gratification, and you're going to have to work at it to keep getting the next goal, the next mission, the next end. You know, it's just the fact that people are confusing or even flipping the two to where divine is now permissive and permissive is now divine is where the world is going wrong. So we have to understand that going forward, that we cannot infuse the two. They must be them separate cells, and we cannot make one the role of the other. In other words, we can't be permissive and then think it's a divine thing to do because we're thinking about our end goals, and then instead of like, for example, right? If we're trying to help people, the end goal is that people receive it. Now, you know, it's us doing the work. We're doing the sacrificing. We're giving up our time, our money, our efforts, our thoughts, whatever. That's what we're giving. That's the sacrifice. When it's a permissive thing, what are we really sacrificing? So would this be so would this be the duality of will? Well, it's possible, but that's the battle that we have to fight within ourselves every day too. You understand? You know, like it's just like the good angel and the bad angel, the yin and the yang, like we was talking about. Those are the karma things that you was talking about, you know, this morning, last night, however you want to look at it, right? But it's the fact that we must decide which one that we want. It'll manifest into our everyday being too. If we want to be gratified with our thoughts, we're going to do things with permissiveness. If we want the genuality and the heartfeltness of things that we're doing for other people, it's going to be a divinity type of situation. The fact that the duality exists in us all is the battle that we must have each and every day. I hope that answers your question a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, we all have these things within us. We all have to choose which one that we want to go through everyday life with. You know what I mean? And on this day, like I said, because millions of people are celebrating it, do they really understand the divine, the sacrifices that you have to make? The man carried his cross every day. We carry our crosses every day. We take the faults of what we're doing wrong, but we got to decide if we're going to help the people or not. That we are in contact with. That's why we're more than just content creators. We're influencers of life. We can influence somebody to make the right decision or the wrong one. Word said it turns me away from the wrong people. We ain't for everyone. The right people will appreciate you. Is divine ass whooping a thing? Well, it depends on how you looking at a divine ass whooping, right? If you're not putting hands on them and they going through a situation that they feel defeated, that's a divine ass whooping, right? Because if you listen, when you say I still love you in spite of you coming at me the wrong way. They can't combat that. They're going to still try to throw the coals on you, and that it ain't going to do nothing but fall short of you. It ain't going to do nothing but keep your love felt warm, right? That's the divine aspect that people really need. Like this person that's coming at you, they ain't gonna have no choice but to stop it. They ain't gonna have no choice but to leave it alone. Because as long as you continue to be who you are, they're gonna have to flee. As a matter of fact, here's what's getting ready to happen. And I want the people that's listening to this to call it out if I'm wrong. That person is gonna come to you in humility and ask for your forgiveness. Now, what you do with it is up to you, word. Now, if I'm wrong, I know I'm going to be called out. If I'm right, it's going to happen. You understand? So we got to understand that a divine ass whooping is going to have people groveling to you. They may become your prodigal son story, or maybe a prodigal daughter. That's when the humility allows you to come home. No. Hey, I'm telling you, you mark my words. It may not be today. It may not be a month from now. It may be at the end of the summer. But that person is going to come with humility. That apology is going to come. And when it comes, it's going to be up to that person that's apologizing to accept it and let it go. Or even if, here's the thing, right? They could apologize and it still could be permissive. They could be apologizing just to shut the hell up. They can ask for an apology just to say, you know what? I'm over it. They're not going to be accountable because they understand they may not count the people. You understand? They may just be doing it just to do it. They may just be doing it just to say, you know what? I'm here to save face. It's your discernment to see if it's authentic or not. And if you feel like it's not authentic, then you're going to let it go. Like, all right, I accept it. And that's going to allow you to keep going forward. You understand? So that's what I'm saying. When you're in your divine will, your discernment is on a level that no one can understand. Your discernment is so high. You can smell the nonsense before it even gets there. Like how you smelling their delusion or their stubbornness at this very moment. You understand what I'm saying? It's your discernment to understand. When you can read a person, you read them. When you understand a person, you allow them grace. That's a divine thing too. Grace is a divine thing as well. A permissive person, like, all right, whatever, keep it moving. But your divine person is going to have grace, going to have mercy, going to have compassion, going to have love, and is always willing to do for the greater good of someone else. Where your permissiveness is about you. It's always about you. You understand what I'm saying? You get more out of self and permissive will, than you get your self-gratification in divine. That's why my 33 brother is in conflict. He's in conflict because he wants it to be left alone, but he's starting to feel like, yo, I'm ready to get at it. I'm ready to bark. My bite is going to be better than my bark. You understand? And that's the conflict that my 33 brother's going through, despite the fact that he genuinely cares about the person, so he's trying not to inflict harm, but he's going to see if he doesn't leave it alone, that's exactly what they're going to get. You understand? And that's why I said to my 33 brother, listen, let that person have it. Let's fall back. You understand? But the fact that we're having this conversation is very good. But I seen the divinity in my people, in my chat today, because somebody asked for something and we gave with the total heartfeltness of a person that really wants the best for somebody ahead of us. That's a divine will. If we would have been rude and ignored it, that would have been permissive, because it's like, all right, we ain't getting nothing out of this. We're going to let that person go through what they're going through. It is what it is. You understand? But the fact that love can conquer some things, we understand that, listen, we want to give this to this person with the heartfelt expectation that we are knowing that this person is going to receive it and they're going to receive the rewards of receiving it. To where a permissive person is like, here, there you go. There you go. Take that and go ahead with yourself. Good morning, Mary B. How you doing this morning? But the fact that we are, like I said, we are using divine will and permissive will on today, and we're not mixing it or flipping it or making one the opposite of the other, even though it is the thing that we really have to look on. That's the thing that we really have to focus on. The fact that, permissive is for you, is I, and the permissive is selfish. Divine is selfless. It's about a self, but it's about ish and less, meaning you're doing something for yourself, which would be permissive, and the selflessness is for somebody else. That's the divine. That's the yin and yang. That's the karma that will come out of being divine or being permissive, right? The best way we can be smart, right, is if we can continue to grow, is if we learn from each other and we sharpen each other's tool. Because iron sharpens iron, and we are all made of iron in the facts of life, in the walk of life. We all have something to give to somebody going through this life that we are living today, right? And even though we have our own conflicts, our own situations, we can help somebody become selfless and allow a situation to pass them by, because it's the right thing to, it's the kindness in you that can allow you to do it, to where you can just say, you know what, let that person starve. Let that person be who they are. You understand what I'm saying? We all have that divine divinity in us, the divineness, right? But a lot of people prefer the permissiveness rather than the divine. And so because of that, we have a lot of selfish people out here. Instead of helping people gain better or get better, they will just do nothing and allow the illness to make them worse. Whether it's a mental illness of selfishness, a mental illness of greed, even though those are, deadly sins, quote unquote, it's a mental thing too, because it starts in your mind. You understand what I'm saying? If it starts there, it's going to benefit throughout your body. If you do the opposite, you being kind, you being humble, you showing love, you showing all of these things, that allows your trinity in your body to activate itself and become the you that you are supposed to be, your divine will. Scorpio says my ex was selfish and stingy. And that's why he's your ex. Because if he wasn't your ex, if he was selfless and doing the things that he needed to do, he would have been selfless, and that may have kept him for you. You understand? Good morning, Urban. How you doing? Right? It's just the fact of understanding that divine is selfless, permissive is selfish. When you look at it that way, you can see the right and the left, the right or the wrong, the ins and the outs of how we are living our everyday life, right? As much as I talk about being Christ-like, he was selfless in wanting to help everybody else. Where the Sadducees, when the higher ups of religion was only worried about themselves. I need to stay on top. I need to be in control. You only need to be in control of yourself, your will. And that's what the fight of divine and permissive may be in people's mind as we are speaking right now. So going forward, guys, we have to understand what the difference is between divine and permissive. It is selfless versus selfish. And that's the way we should look at it every day of our life. If we can, we will focus on the one that we truly want. It doesn't, like, for some people, it may be a wrong decision, but understand that there are consequences to your decision. You're going to reap what you sow. So if you think about yourself, you're going to get yourself. If you become selfless, you will be full with selfless people. Selfish people may hang around selfish people, but they're only gaining for themselves. When you're selfish, you gain knowledge, you grow, you become a better you. You're not grown. When you're permissive, you're grown because it's always about I. There's no I in a team. But when you're selfless, the I becomes a we. The I becomes a team. And for me, that's the decision that we have to make in becoming divine or permissive in our wills and in our everyday life. So, for those of you that, have any questions or you have anything to add, feel free to add in, but at the end of the day, you got to understand what it is. You got to understand what you want in life. You got to understand that if this the best for you, then it's what you need, So it's up to you guys to decide if that's what you want to do, right? Because like I said, on this Good Friday, it's just time to have that conversation. Because if you become a new person, you're going to have to choose what you want in your life, divine will or permissive will. It's just that's that fact of matter. And, at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for us, right? And sometimes the best thing to do is to be selfless. It's okay that there will be times where you have to be selfish, but for the most part, you should be selfless, because if you have a family, you have to sacrifice for them. If you have if you're in a relationship, 9 times out of 10, you're going to sacrifice in that situation. It's all up to you guys, it's all up to what you decide in life, so at the end of the day, it's about what is best for you. It's what you think or how you think you can get through life with certain things and situations. You understand? So it's always up to an individual to decide what's best for them. And when you know what's best for you, you're going to follow what you know. You're not going to follow what you think. Faith is knowing. Like I have faith in God. So God is going to come through for you, right? If you doubt, that's more of a permissive thing. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get anything out of this. It's about you. But if you want to be a better you, you're going to have to go through some definitive actions in order to become a better you. Because when you think about yourself, it may lead you to clouded judgment. It may lead you to selfishness and greed and hunger and lust and all of those things. But if that's what you want to do, feel free. Nobody has a heaven or hell to put you in, so you can make that decision however you see fit, and that's just the way it is. So if like I said, I think my chat, the StreamYard link is up. I don't even normally do this, but if somebody has something to say, feel free to jump up and say what you have to say. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me. If I'm here to help, I'm here to help. But normally I would just say what I say and get off. But, I just think that somebody wants something to say. So I don't have a problem with somebody coming up and saying anything. But that's the difference, right? You gotta, sometimes we have to lead by example. If you want somebody you have to show the results of what you're talking about. If you're being selfless, you got to give yourself to people, right? Urban, good morning.
Gary, good morning. How you doing?
I'm all right, and yourself? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, before we start our conversation, let me go ahead and speak to Scorpio. Lord Jesus. Good morning, Scorpio. How you doing? Happy Good Friday. Lord
Scorpio.
Jesus.
Scorpio's supposed to be nice today.
She never nice with me. She always be a bully to me all the time. But
Oh,
I love her though. I love her.
yeah.
She's my mod.
Yeah. But what do you think about The divine and permissiveness. What do you think about the different attributes?
Divine permissiveness, you said?
Yeah, divine will versus permissive will. What do you think about the separation of the two?
Oh, okay. Well, if we look at for us like for us, God, um, He gave us divine will, right? He gave us the one free will to do certain things that we want to do, or give us the choice to choose where if we want to do a certain type of action or not. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, because some people, like I was saying earlier, the way the world is going now, some people might think permissive will is divine and divine will is permissive, meaning that a permissive will is something that people will be more disapproved of. For example, you know how the Bible say, you ain't supposed to shack up, right? That's a permissive will. Where divine will is you're only supposed to live together when you're married. Those are the type of things that the divine will and permissive will, it leads to certain conversations. So I'm just saying, if you understand the difference, you can make the change and understand which is right or which is wrong or which is best for you. So I'm just showing people, like, whatever decision you make, there's going to be consequences to it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, and I could agree to that. Well, wherever choices, decision you make is going to be a consequence. It's going to be a cause and effect, whether it be good or, consider as bad. That is totally up to you on the decision that you make. Now, for us, like the difference between like divine will and what was the other one you said?
Permissive will.
Yeah, permissive will. Now, how do I see it that it could be one and the same depending on your belief system. Like for example, you used to the example about the Bible. The Bible forbid people to shack up, but rather you should be married. That could be considered as divine will, which is nothing wrong with that. But also at the same time, it could be permissive depending on how the way that person is, because some people they'll want to shack up with the whole intentions of getting married, and then they're becoming what we call common law married, even
Mm-hmm.
though they're not technically legally married, or it be other situations for us permissive will where people are spiritually married to each other, or spiritually tethered to each other, for different reasons. So, I mean, it could be one and the same thing. Just like in the Bible, if I'm not mistaken, in the Bible, Mary and Joseph, even though the Bible said that there was a couple, to my understanding, I don't believe that they was actually married to each other. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that could be considered as part of his divine will, where it could be spiritual, then it could be passive because it was a decision that they made based on, culture or social norms in their time.
Yeah, I agree with that because sometimes you could turn a wrong into a right, right? For
Yeah,
example,
absolutely.
if we just go by just this alone, like you just said, you could be shacking up with the intention to get married. So when you get married, it's no longer a permissive will, it's a divine will because you have done the thing that you're supposed to do. You intertwined and became one in the first place. That's what a marriage is anyway. It doesn't have to be you walking down the aisle. It doesn't have to be you, doing all of the ways of the world rituals of being married. It could just be
Hmm.
the simple fact that you intertwined, it became one. Your souls are tied. That's what intimacy is. But a lot of people don't understand the difference between intimacy and sex. That's the divine versus permissive situation. You could be doing that just for yourself, but the intimacy is because you want to become close with that person and intertwine with them and become one. That's a divine thing when you become in unison to where you're just doing it for your selfish desires. For me, that's the difference between divine will and permissive will as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And that goes on the lines between, what is actual considered as marriage. Now, back in the day, marriage was just basically a verbal agreement, between two parties. Particularly, it was the father and the other father who's agreeing for their son and their daughter to be married to each other
Mhm.
for business purposes. But later on down the line, it just became just a verbal agreement between two people. So if two people agree that they want to be in a relationship, then you're considered as married. You know,
Mhm.
and this also goes into the line of talking about soul ties. That's why it's important that you don't be having all these crazy soul ties with people. In other words, going around and sleeping with all these people have all these tethering energies behind you and stuff, and wondering why you can't be in a successful relationship. But that's the reason why, because you got all these soul ties, you're tethered together with different people, where you, in a way, you're spiritually married to these people because you made a verbal agreement for us with sex. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it could be intimacy too, depending on how the way the person perceive it to be. You know, in that
Mhm.
moment.
Yeah. So, we also have to understand that even with a soul tie, it can go the other way. Like, as one of my people today would say, there's good light and bad light. So there's good soul ties and bad soul ties. It's always an opposite of a positive is a negative. So we have to understand that too. Just because we're doing things in a certain way, it doesn't mean it's always correct. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, you got to understand that there's a balance, there's an understanding, and there's a consequence, good or bad, to whatever reaction or action that you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Miss T said right. The Ten Commandments say do not fornicate. Yeah, it does. But that's the thing. So what it like the meaning for me, the meaning of fornication is something. It's it's a difference for me, right? Excuse me, because to fornicate means to do something out of marriage. But my thing is, if you can have a soul tie, and is that, for me, that's considered a marriage
Hmm.
because you're intertwining and becoming one. So if you do that, is that a marriage? You understand what I'm saying? Is a soul tie a marriage? It To me, it's a marriage, even
Hmm.
if it's done correctly or not. Meaning, even if you have the wrong person, you're going to be tied to the wrong person, as far as emotionally, soulfully, or whatever the case may be. Morning, Shay. That's why we're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to have discernment in who you're having those relationships with in the first place, right? That's why you got to understand the difference between the divine will and the permissive will. When you're doing everything the way you're supposed to, you're gonna vet. You're gonna do the things that you do for the greater good. When you do it for in a permissive matter, you're gonna end up only doing it for yourself and yourself alone.
Yeah, yeah, I agree to that. And another thing too is that in the Ten Commandments, it don't say do not fornicate. It say do not commit adultery. Fornication and adultery is two totally different things. Just like what Gary said, fornication means that you're going around and basically having sexual relations with a person that you're not tethered to or you're not married to. Adultery is when you are in a marriage and you end up having sexual relations with another person that's not with your partner.
Right. And so, I know I know a lot of people, for that this conversation, it'll be, a difference of opinion. But the fact of the matter is, if you're doing everything in a divine fashion, this won't even, it shouldn't even like really matter, because it just for the simple fact, when you having sex, it's like for yourself, right? For
Hmm.
most of us, when you have sex, you getting yourself off, right? When you're intimate, you're giving yourself to somebody. It's not a sacrifice, is where you know the greatest of sacrifices, but the intimacy is, you giving yourself to somebody with an emotional attachment being involved, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I say it's a difference, but you got to understand the difference between the two. Because if it's like sex, for me, sex is permissive, meaning, all right, I'm gonna do what I do, and then that's it, right? To where if it's intimate, you're doing it with the understanding that I'm giving myself to somebody in an emotional and physical fashion. That's the
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice. So that's a touchy conversation for a lot of people. But I'm really just trying to show people the difference between the divine will and the permissive will. I may not be explaining it the way that I'm supposed to be saying it, but the fact is, for me, like I said, for me, divine is selfless and permissive is selfish. That's just how I view it.
Yeah, and you're explaining exactly how the way it needs to be explained. Yeah, so don't doubt yourself, brother, at all. You know, I agree with everything that you're saying. Everything I do.
You know, like I said, for this day, you know what I mean? It's Good Friday. We got to understand that, the story of Christ is the reason of having this conversation, right? Because everybody wanted them to be, no, think about yourself. Think about yourself, even in your tryingest of times, right? You
Mm-hmm.
do the things for somebody else. That's a divine entity. That's a divine decision that you make. Because at the end of the day, if he would have just said, you know what, I'm done with it, and it came down, then what? Now you want to force somebody to believe with their eyes instead of with their heart. Now they faith is something that you don't see, right? You gotta
Yeah.
believe, you gotta receive it to believe it, right? In the physical, you believe it, then you receive it. Like, I gotta see it. Oh, I just saw it, so now it is what it is. And that's another difference between divine and permissive. One is visual, and one is not visual. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A divine walk, you can see it because you can see the spirit of the person, but you're not seeing it physically. To where permissiveness, you can see it before it even happens, right? You can see it like physically before. All right, well, he's only going to think about himself. Okay, all right, he's going to go buy this and then share with everybody just to say I got it. To where
Mm-hmm.
you give this person, you give it to this person, understanding that they need it. You know what I mean? I'm just like I said, I'm just trying to show the difference between the two, so that way everybody has an understanding that there actually is a difference. Because some people may be walking around not knowing the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, I agree with that. I agree with everything you're saying, and I believe that you have articulated that to the best of your ability. And I know without a shadow of doubt, your viewers they get the message that you're talking about.
Married B, so I'm going to have premarital sex because I'm never getting married. I got needs. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just saying, when you do have that, you may fall in love with the thing that's soul ties. I'm just trying to tell y'all, hey, it is what it is. But you got to understand also that this is not, you know, we're not here to judge anybody. I'm just trying to allow people to see the differences. You can do what you want to do, because at the end of the day, the consequences fall unto you. But you can't now go back saying that, listen, I didn't know that's what it was, when it's being spoken about out in the open. You understand what I'm saying? That's like somebody
Mm-hmm.
saying, I never heard of Jesus Christ, but now they telling you that Jesus Christ died on the cross and he rose for the third day. And you can't say that you don't know it when it's being told to you. Now you got to be literally lack of hearing, deaf, and not to say that you're not hearing what's going on around you or what's being a topic of conversation. You know what I mean? So that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and another thing about who's that? Mary B. That's her name.
Married me,
And
yes.
yeah, another thing about Mary B. comment is that I want her to consider this. All right, I want her to consider the possibility that if you do end up linking up with a dude on prior before marriage, just for the sole purpose of that sexual encounter,
Hmm.
do you have any type of emotional? tied into when you participate in that activity? You have to want to ask yourself that question as a woman, because when we know through biology that men and women are totally different when it comes to that's the term sex. Where men are built to going off and getting a jump off. You know what I'm saying? We're built to do that, but women are not, because women are built to be the receivers of it. So normally women are more emotional than men. You know what I'm saying? And here's another thing that you have to consider as well too. It is the women who teaches us men how to be intimate or to be part of intimacy, because in our mind, we're just participating in the encounter because that's how the way we was designed to be. But a woman teaches us about intimacy and passion, and ultimately it elevates to what is called love. A woman teaches us that. So that's why it's important as a woman that if you want to participate in doing that, you have to be like very, 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 very careful who you decide to do that with, because you'll never know what type of spiritual connections that they have with other people, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say. We have, okay, she says I'm a different type of woman. I've actually told the guy to go ahead and leave after we are done. He was like, what? Woo, Mary B. Ooh, wow. I don't know. I mean, this must have been, I don't know why I don't see you like that. But if you've done that, then I mean, it's okay as well. I mean, like I said, I'm not judging anybody. So,
Mm-hmm.
you go do whatever it is that you decide to do. Ms. T says, respectfully, no matter how you state it, fornication is a sin. I'm not judging because we all sin and fall short, but that's a fact. And you can be right. And that's why I'm saying it's a permissive will. Fornication is a permissive will, because at the end of the day, it's something that a lot of people will disapprove of, right? But let me ask you a question, Ms. T. Can you turn a permissive will situation into a divine one? You see, we got to understand that there's a recourse to everything, right? If that's like saying, if I gotta, how would I say this, right? If I fornicate with a woman, right? Well, no matter how we look at fornication, and then I marry her, did that permissive will now become divine because that's what God wants us to do, is to be married? She said, I can turn from sin. Yeah, we all can turn from sin, but that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between the permissiveness and the divine, right? You fornicate with one person, right? And then you turn around and say, you know what? I'm doing wrong. I'm shacking up with a person, right? Let's just say, listen, I'm shacking up with a person because the ways of the world tell me that I can't afford this place by myself, right? So you bring the other person in, right? And then you turn around and get married. I'm saying you could turn a permissive will into a divine one, right? The fact that you want to stay in that permissive state is what makes it permissive. You're not trying to get out of it. You're staying where you are. If you're doing something out of divineness, you're going to do the best that you can to elevate it. But when you're permissive, it's all about you. You're doing it for yourself. It's a selfish reason. That's why I say permissive will is selfish. Divine will is selfless. And that's, for me, that's the best way that I can explain that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And Miss Mary, she was saying that she was doing this back in 2010, where she was going through a time where she wanted to do the men the same way how they was treating women. Now, to be honest, I could actually normally agree with her on that, and I could actually relate to her, because that's one of the number one reasons why a lot of both men and women do stuff like that, because they end up dealing with a traumatic experience in a relationship. And instead of them like taking the time out to really deal with their emotional disconnection, right? They end up going out and doing other things. Hold on one moment, my daughter in here.
Okay, because I'm all right. Well, I'm gonna let you finish that. Then I'm gonna read what the word my 33 brother has stated, and I'm gonna ask you your opinion about that too. But basically, he's saying my personal opinion is that everyone is an individual. Even these concepts are created to give context or understand of what exists. So boxes are created to associate, to learn, but every box doesn't. And so when you come back up, I mean, I personally agree with it, right? Because in life, everything is about being put in a box, right? All I'm saying is, while being in the box, right, you got to understand whatever decision. I just believe this: whatever decision you make is gonna, it may put you in a proverbial box, right? Even if you don't think so, it doesn't mean that somebody else will not try to put you in a box. So, two things could be right at the same time, right? I believe that what word is saying is correct. I also believe what I'm saying is correct, right? Because it doesn't matter if we think outside of the box. There's too many people that's going to try to put you in the box. So it's going to be a constant battle of you coming out of the box. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever you decide is what you decide. But like I said, every decision, every action is going to have a consequence to it. So I can agree with that, with what Word is saying. I also just believe that, like I said, because everything is put into a boxful situation, it doesn't mean that we ain't gonna get out of it unscathed. You know what I mean? So I totally agree with that. Mary B says, I understand and respect that, but because I care about you, God tells me to spread his word. He does the rest. I agree with that as well. If I always say, if you do your best, God will do the rest, right? So the fact that we are trying to do his best, if you do, this is my thing. If you feel like you're doing what God is telling you to do, that's a divine will or a divine decision on your part because you feel that God is telling you to do that. Miss T, but somebody may ask you, what God are you serving? You know what I mean? So there's always going to be a situation to where somebody is going to have something to say about whatever the situation is, right? You could be doing that and say, well, what God you spoke to, right? Because, some people consider Satan to be a God. You understand what I'm saying? So that question is always going to come up. That and that's the thing, and that goes back to the box that Word was talking about. We always, there's always going to be context and situations to where those questions is going to say that he may not be a God, Ms. T, but some people do give and worship to him as if he is a God. A God, he could be a little G God, right? I know, they talk about the capitalization of the G and that's D God, and the little God is not the God of the big G, but there are people that may consider him to be a God and give him power to be a God. Sometimes that happens.
Oh, okay. I'm bad. Sorry about that, brother.
No, it's okay. But
Yep. Yep.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Back to the point where I was saying about Mary. That, like I say, I understand that because well, were you in a relationship or well, you're in a relationship and you deal with a traumatic experience of your relationship, naturally what you want to do is that you want to release that type of emotions or feelings, so that's that soul tie that you had previously, right? And if you don't figure out how to do it in a healthy way, then you'll resort in doing the way what she's talking about doing, where she went out and she was just sleeping with different people to satisfy not only her sexual desires, but also to try to prove a point. Now, the reason why I'd say that I understand where she's coming from is because I did that in the past too, where I went out and I was just sleeping with different women to satisfy not only a sexual appetite, but also because deep down inside I was hurting there due to how the way I was treated by the former woman that said they loved me. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes in life we deal with certain situations and we just have to go through it. It doesn't mean that necessarily you're a bad person. It is that sometimes you just have to go through things to get to a certain point in life where you can finally just forgive and let go and move forward, And I believe that in her experiences, to me, in her personal experience, I believe that it's not nothing wrong with that, even though it could be considered biblically as fornication. It could be also considered as, going against God's divine law and, nature and stuff. But also sometimes things just need to happen in a way it need to happen for them to get to the point where they need to be at,
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you your opinion about what the word is said. The word said, my personal opinion is this: everyone is an individual. Even this concept are created to give context or understand of what exists. So boxes are created to associate, to learn, but every box doesn't. What do you think about that? What do you think about that comment?
She's speaking from a context of
Well,
atheism,
the
right?
word is a guy. Hold on, the word is a guy.
Oh, my bad. My
Mm-hmm.
bad. It's speaking on the context of like atheism, right? And so, huh?
Auntie gave me this.
Oh, okay. My bad. That's my daughter
Mm-hmm.
again.
Right.
but yeah, it's speaking on the context about atheism, right? Where people who are atheists, they necessarily don't believe in a higher power, but they believe that things that's happen, depending on choices and decisions that they make. So part of that I could understand where they're coming from because whenever you are part of a organized religion, if you don't understand the whole value behind it, then it will put you in a box. It'll just confine you because it'll make you, in other words, it'll make it seem like that you just can't live your life, period. You can't live your life, and if you do certain type of choices or decisions, then you're considered as being a sinner. You know what I'm saying? So I can understand where they're coming from on that, but my personal belief about religion or anything is that it's always about evolution. You're always acquire information that's going to help you learn and grow as a person. You know what I'm saying? Whether if it's organized religion, whether if it's learning about science, technology, wherever the case may be, wherever help you to elevate yourself, then that's what you need to do. So I don't judge it at all. If that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
No, I mean, like you said, that's your opinion, and and he made his opinion. I just believe that two things are right. Sometimes people do make things to be a box, and sometimes there are people that thinks outside of a box, right? But because there are so many people that is boxed in, you may have crab in a barrel syndrome. They may want to pull you back in instead of you flourishing outside of a box. So that's why for me, two things could be correct, right? I could think outside of the box. I could think inside of the box. Everybody's an individual. So what's going to work for them is going to work for them, right? All we can do is just give the advice or give the suggestions, and it's going to go where it goes. You know what I mean? Somebody that's outside of the box may think that may work, that it will work for them. And if it does work for them, they're going to give that advice to somebody else. And somebody that's in the box, if that works for them, it's the same thing. They will give that advice. So I just believe that two things could be correct. You know what I mean? It's up to an individual to decide what's going to work for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with your point on that. And actually, actually, Gary, that's very good that you stay in that space too, versus what you call having a zealous mindset, meaning that you're so religious that what you say goes. Period. And if you don't agree with me, then you're sitting and I don't care. You shouldn't be that way towards. I'm not saying you particularly, but I'm talking about people who have that mentality shouldn't be that way towards people. Period. Because you don't know people life experiences, you don't know people's circumstances, you don't know the reason why people were in that space where they at right now. You know what I'm saying? Unless you have the conversation. But even when you have the conversation, you have to be willing to be open to understanding, you know what I'm saying? Understanding the why. Once when you understand the why, then you understand why the person is what they is, and you could just give sound advice that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally understand it. But the fact, Mary B said this is a great conversation, and it is because, you know, it's people having civil conversations. Even if there's a disagreement, the conversation is being listened to for understanding, right? It's not just a simple fact to turn around to just hear it and have a debate. But it
Line of
works.
salute.
It goes for both people, right? Because if you listen and understand, you're gonna have a point to where even if we don't agree, we disagree, right? We can do that as mature adult people. And when you're just hearing to rebut, that's where the chaos and arguments and all of those other things come. So, I'm just glad that these conversations is being had, because at the end of the day, we are all here to sharpen each other. We are all here to better ourselves. And if iron sharpens iron, your information may help somebody in the chat, and somebody's information in the chat could be helping you and I at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a good understanding. Do you think I'm disagreeing with what you're saying?
No, 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 no. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that, in the comments, like in the chat, people are, I gratefully disagree or anything to that statement, right?
Oh,
I'm
okay,
just
gotcha.
I'm just saying it to where we're having a conversation and it's not going to the left. It's, you know what I mean? It's staying, cool, calm, and collected, level-headedness. You know what I mean? So I'm just glad that the conversation is being had. And I thank you for coming up to state your opinion and things of that nature. We got another comment. Hold on. The word said, I just had a witness ring my doorbell with the tower, and I think I scared her off because I taught her they gonna send the big honcho. Oh, never mind. I'm just saying, but that's like, for me, that's that's my thing about religion itself, right? I've, I understand that there's religions. I just believe, me personally, that if you're Christ-like, you're gonna supersede a religion, right? Being Christ-like, you don't have to be in Islam, you don't have to be Christian, you don't have to be Buddhist or Hindi or whatever the case may be. The way that Christ lived his life is the way of life. It's just a way of life. It's not a religion. A religion is something that you just doing it as a routine. A way of life, you believe that's the way you should live your life. You understand what I'm saying? For me, being Christ-like supersedes any religion. What you think about that?
Yeah, well, then again, I just had a different perspective about it. I'm about to get ready to say I agree with you on that, because I also consider walking my life as Christ-like, too, based on the biblical definition of Christ-like, and also based on your definition of it too. So I agree with that. But then again, I started thinking about it right on forced religion, and I came to this conclusion that I believe that it's okay for some people to be in religion itself. Now, hear me out on this, Gary. The reason why I say that is because there were people out in the world who needs religion, or in other words, there are people out in the world who needs to be under a law or need to be organized. Because if they're not organized, then what's going to happen is that they're going to allow their mental behavior to make them correct certain choices, decisions that in their life that's not going to be acceptable to the social norm. You know what I'm saying? Like say for example, the Bible teaches about the Ten Commandments. That's the basic focal point, right? So I believe I believe that there are people out there that need that. Oh yeah, what Scorpio say, that people need that type of structure. That they need that type of structure in life to kind of keep them from doing things that they know good and well that they'll do if they're not under no type of structure, if that makes any sense. There are people out there who do have mental disorders for real. Like for real. And so they need a certain type of structural system to help to balance them out. You know what I'm saying? Which it comes to religion. Now, for us, how the way they're receiving the religion, that is totally up to not only that person, but it's also up to the leader of that particular religion that they're a part of. That's why I say that not everyone is called to be a preacher or apostle or, anything like that, especially if you run your organized religion like a business, because you have to consider that the people who are part of your flock, they really do have some mental disorder, and you leading them astray. Instead of you teaching them how to self-improve themselves, you teaching them how to run a business, and they don't need to know how to run a business. Some of them probably already know how to run a business, but they running their business chaotic, and you want to teach them how to do worse than that, instead of teaching them to be balanced. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, Paul even says that about religion as well too. That it's nothing wrong with religion, but it does depends on how the way it's being used. You know what I'm saying? If it's used to help get a person to where they need to be at, then it's nothing wrong with that. But if they're using it as, what the Bible says, being false prophets and being corrupt about it, then yeah, it's something wrong with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that's the thing about religion, right? And that's why a lot of people are getting away from that terminology of religion, because at the end of the day, if you go through our history, people want to say, well, there's been many wars fought over something that God told you, right? A jihad or Christian Muslim wars and things of that
Facts.
nature. So because of that, this is why people are feeling, and plus the 400 years of slavery, well, they forced this religion on you, this, that, and the third. So, that's why people are going to walk away from the term religion. I'm saying, for me, if you don't want to follow the religion, follow the ways of the prophets, right? Because no matter how you look at it, a prophet is doing the things of a divine fashion. That's why they're prophets. So if you go about it that way, I just use Jesus because he was deemed the high priest of high priests. So if he's the high priest above high priest, he would be the closest thing to God that anyone could come close to. So that's why, for me, that will be the Christ-like entity that I speak about lately, because if he's the highest of highs, if he could reach the holiest of holies, then that should be the example to follow. And religion doesn't have anything to do with that, because it's just a way of living for a person that wants to be in a divine will.
Yeah, and I understand that. I understand your concept. And once again, I agree with it too. What I was gonna say, I'm looking at the comments, so I got kind of sidetracked. But yeah, I agree with that. I agree that religion it could be a way. It also could be a way of living with certain people. Now, the one thing about it, Gary, is that like for us, like me and you concerned, I believe that me and you have evolved into a higher level of understanding or a higher level of consciousness where we necessarily don't need the old way in order for us to understand simple common sense. You know what I'm saying? Which that's still interpreted as being Christ-like. We know good and well that we should treat each other with respect. We know good and well that you should do your best to lie, or you should have steal, you should have fornicate, you shouldn't commit adultery. All these if that we know that because we know that through common sense by the life that we live and the life that we walk. But however, there are some people that they kind of know common sense, but when it's forced them interpreted right, they just can't it just can't process to them doing the action, if that make any sense. So sometimes religion or law is needed to bring that structure to them. No different from the law of the land. You know what I'm saying? If we didn't have the law of the land, it'll be people out there that just do whatever. You know what I mean? Like here's another example of this. Like I don't know if you watched the movie the Purge, right? The Purge movies, right? But on the Purge movies, right? They had gave people 24 hours to do whatever the hell they wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? In that particular time, they could kill, they could do whatever. You know what I'm saying? So notice that in that movie, there was some people who decided to do that right, but there was other people who had decided to not do that. They decided to only hide themselves in their houses. They got state-of-the-art systems to protect themselves. Now, if they had to protect themselves, then they'll do what they got to do. But overall, they wasn't participating in it. Then another thing that you have to consider is that what were the type of people that was doing it? The type of people that was doing it was the ones who had mental disorders. You know what I'm saying? Them the ones who, when you take away the law from them, when you take away structure from them, that they will automatically just do what they want to do. So that's the whole concept about religion. Religion could be a great tool for them, for us, like keeping them, stable or structured. Because if they don't have it, then they're going to do whatever they want to do. They're going to go out. They're going to fornicate. Like, so for example, I don't know if you're married, Gary, but they'll go out and normally sleep with your wife, but end up doing the R word or SA your wife and you and other people too, because they don't have that structure. They don't have nothing to tell them what's right and wrong that they could follow. And so that's why I'm saying that religion could be used at that, but for us people like, other people like us who understand that concept, we necessarily don't need religion. All we have to do is be Christ-like, because we have that common sense to know the difference between right and wrong. Does that make any sense?
No, I understand what you're saying. You're saying pretty much the structure of the religion is it's for people that don't know. But if you have higher understanding, you can go about it another way.
Absolutely.
I don't know if the word is agreeing with that, but let me read what he said. He said, "What's for people is for them. The problem comes is when people force their belief on others, especially when the others choose to deal with facts. We might not know
Absolutely.
everything, but that doesn't mean nothing is known." So I want to believe that you guys are on agreement. I'm high in the chat. Let me go and shoot down if he said anything. But I just believe that, like I said, what you saying is correct and what he's saying correct. As a matter of fact, if I didn't know any better, I think you guys are in agreement but in two different aspects of what you guys are saying. But what you're saying is that, you going on the facts of, because some people go through their experience, right? In church, they tell you, nobody can tell you your experience with God, right? So for you, that's your fact, right? But the fact that other people believe that, there's other things that factor in to a fact, that's what allows people to either stay where they at, or it allows them to elevate into a higher realm of understanding. I think that's what he's saying. I think that's what you're saying. That's why I think you guys are in agreement.
Yeah. I believe we're saying the same exact thing. We're just saying it in two totally different ways for us. What I'm reading.
Right. And that, that's the thing. Miss T, your words have merit, right? And that's why I say, we are learning from each other, right? We building. So if if you agree or disagree with it, it's okay to say what you say. You know what I mean? I'm really in a judge-free zone. And like I said, what you may say may help us understand, and what we are saying may help somebody else understand. We're in a iron sharpen iron mode, right? We are preparing ourselves to become better people. And in order to be great, we have to see things from every angle. You can't just keep going into things with blinders on. So that's why for me, I value everybody's comments. I take it into perspective, and some of us may even apply it to see if it works for us. And if it doesn't work for us, we can say we tried it. It's just not for us. If we are of the people of higher understanding and knowing. So don't be afraid, I'm not going to say afraid. Don't be shy to, state your opinions, because at the end of the day, it could help me, and it can help somebody else in the chat to get a better understanding of you and your ideas and your thoughts. And it allows us to become better in understanding each other and not just going off of assumptions. We could always go by what your words are stating. And even if it's your opinion, that may be your belief and understanding of things, and it allows us to understand you as an individual. So like I said, I put it in there if anybody else wanted to come up. But the fact is we're just having a conversation about what we think or what we believe. So that's not really a problem, Ms. T.
Yeah, Gary. When I did my live yesterday, where I was talking about my faith being restored,
Right.
I had mentioned something, right? I had mentioned about people who become atheists, right? One of the key points that I want people to understand is that there's a reason to why people become atheists. The number one reason why people become atheists is because of spiritual abuse. All right, not only spiritual abuse, but spiritual and religious abuse. They had came encounter with maybe a loved one or a social norm, but whatever the case may be, right, where they wanted to express themselves differently, right, about their interpretation about what they believe in. Mm-hmm. Instead of that person understanding where they coming from, and just understanding that, they decide to attack them religiously and spiritually. They use negative words such as telling them that they're backsliding. They use negative words, say that we can't fellowship with one another because you're not in the same faith-based belief system as I am, and all these other type of negative words. So it causes them to want to stray away from their belief. Not to mention if they dealing with personal traumatic experience, like say for example, they've been working at a job for over 20 years, and all of a sudden they get laid off, and not only laid off, they end up losing their home, they end up their health end up decreasing, or a loved one end up passing away. There's different uncontrollable circumstances that happen as well too, and then that would trigger that atheism belief system to where you start questioning God to why all these things happen, and you don't get that answer to what you're seeking out of. You know what I'm saying? So with all these different things that I mentioned, that's why people will become atheists. But however, we have to understand the reason why it is what it is, instead of trying to judge it. Understand why And when you understand why, then you can understand why they're feeling the way they're feeling. You could do your part as not as not only just being Christ-like or whatever, right? But you could do your part as a human being to have passion for people or be compassionate or do certain things that you're capable of doing to help them get out of the situation. A simple listening ear will go a long way. You know what I'm saying? A simple listening ear, a simple act of charity will go a long way where at that moment they maybe needed something, whether it's food or finances or advice, whatever the case may be. Just something simple as that will go a long way versus like what we were saying earlier, for us the judgment part, they're trying to throw religion and trying to judge them and use all these negative words and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, right? Because you got so many people. I think the problem with the churches today is that they got so many people putting people in heaven and hell. You don't
Absolutely.
even have that authority to do so, right? But because there's so much judgment and there's so much content for people doing certain things in a certain manner, people are not gonna just come and be open to another individual, right? For example, I could be one of the few people that say, you know what, if you need somebody, I'm here for you, right? I could be one of the few people that do that. But the fact that there's so many people think the majority of people are going to use their story, use their testimony against them. They may not want to come out and have the conversation. They may feel so guarded that I wish I would tell some. I won't tell nobody nothing, and they'll keep it to themselves instead of allowing it to come out. Because at the end of the day, we know if you hold something in for a while, it can implode you and make you even
Absolutely.
worse than you are. But because the way of the world, it's a battle for people to actually come out, and that's why for me, it's the reason why I don't want to say my channel, but people of an attribute wanting to encourage or people that want better for other people, it may not elevate to the people compared to people that go through, like the beef sector. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's so like some people's peace is chaos, and some people want a piece of PEAC to be PIECE. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where
Hmm.
the disassociation may come from. Hold on before you say something. Let me read what Mary B said. She said, I became an atheist because I never felt a connection with a God. Humanity definitely had a part in it. Some Christian folks do the most devilish things. And on that, what do you say about that? Do you agree, disagree, or
Yeah, I agree with that because there's some people out there who don't have like what is called a spiritual connection. Do in religion, right? Let's talk about religion. Where we first started going to church as children, right? Our parents taught us that the only way you could have like some type of connection with God is that it's like it have to be like a burning feeling inside. They have to lay hands on you, then you feel this warm sensation, and they say that this warm sensation is considered as the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? And so after that, the evidence behind that warm sensation is that you begin to speak in another language, which is speaking in tongues. Some people do not have that type of experience. And so when they don't have that type of experience, they start second guessing themselves. They start doubting themselves like, well, she's sitting up here doing this or he's sitting up here doing this. Why I'm not experiencing this? Why I'm not feeling this the same way how I feel? Is there something wrong with me? And that goes back to what I was saying about the religious and spiritual abuse, because that person or even the pastor, right, they'll go back and say that there's something wrong with you. They'll say that it's a demon inside of you or whatever, and they need to rebuke that spirit in order for the Holy Spirit to be transmuted into you. You know what I'm saying? So they do all these negative things and make a person feel some type of way. But in reality, that person doesn't have that particular connection to, you know, a God. But however, they may have a connection to nature, which, you know, nature and God is ultimately the same as that thing. You know what I'm saying? So I understand where she's coming from on that point.
I agree. I understand. It's hard to, and that's the thing, right? When you have these quote unquote religious leaders, right? Like I said, that's why people fall away. Because my question is, okay, if you are supposed to be ordained by God, and then you're ordaining somebody that clearly is not the ordainable aspect, meaning he's not doing nothing godlike, but you ordain him anyway. How do you expect people to follow you what you're saying? You know what I mean? That's why I say for me, religion is a business. You know, the way of life can't be a business. It's just your way of life. You understand what I'm saying? But let me welcome in Word. Good morning, Word. What's going on? How you feeling?
Hey, where's Salute?
Hello, brother, man. You having a bomb conversation. I got the kids, so I was hoping I can just tap in a little bit. But go ahead and I'm listening, man.
Yeah, like I said, Mary B's good people, right? And so, I understand what she's saying. I truly believe everything. But that's her experience, right? And so I totally get it. But we also have to understand that there's different different entities at play, right? I get it that why God will allow things to happen, right? It's just like you can have a negative experience, right? And then you're gonna like you can question whatever you believe about God, but we also have to understand there's other entities at play when we going through this thing called life, right? That's why I just said what I said. You can't, people are giving people powers that they don't even have the power to give, but because we are so fleshly, we think that we can do whatever we want to do and there's no consequences behind it, right? You leading people down the wrong way. That's why, I believe when Word speaks, he's going to talk about being in the boxes and things of that nature, because we have given so much power to people that we automatically feel that we're in the box because we gave these people power. We give them life. We give them those attributes to allow us to be put in boxes. But when we have total understanding, when we have, gained more knowledge, we can get up out of the boxes. That's why for me, another thing that I say is that you can't be grown and grow at the same time, meaning you have to still be in the mindset of understanding facts and putting it into play and then see if it applies in your life. Because as long as you're grown, you're never going to accept or you're never going to grow into the person that you want to be. Because if you are growing, you can dispute things and come to a clear understanding without being irrational or coming at somebody with a malice attitude or a judgmental state of being. So I get what Mary B is saying, and I truly believe that some people do manipulate positions in power and say it is of God. That's why I said all of the Christian wars. God ain't telling y'all to go through all of these lands and conquer and do all of this and do all of that, because at the end of the day, if Christ is being who he is, Christ is not fighting. You ain't never see Christ in a fight. You see Christ trying to improve and better people, not destroy. So that's why I personally don't believe that religion is a factor when you're Christ like. You supersede it. A word just dropped down. Okay. So, but the fact that that's occurring is just the ways of the world. It's just like I say common sense ain't common anymore because they don't use it in that aspect. So, at the end of the day, I just want, it's a tough situation to be in, right? Because you put your faith into a being or religion or God that you can't see, and then these attacks come, and it's easily to be persuaded that there is no God or there is no higher power or there is no creator, and then we go on about life with that attribute that there's no higher substance than us ourselves. And so it's a tough way to live, but there's a lot of people living that way.
Here. Oh, where did you want to say something? I'll wait. You go ahead, bro.
I was just about to say this real quick for my daughter to have. But even, the whole concept or the way we understand God, that was given to us from other people's perspective and not really found on our own. So if someone gives you a perspective and you can't associate with it, then it doesn't exist. But for me, because I was like Mary, and even if you hear me, I don't even like using the term God because of the what's perceived as God. We use anthropomorphism when we talk about God to associate or understand. But when you find your own or make your own connection or correlation with God, I call it the creator, I call it source, I call it consciousness. Then you begin to see it a little, then begin to establish that connection or relationship. Okay, Nana. So I always tell people, um, okay, you just wait. Okay, give me one second.
Oh yeah. His kids out of school too for
Yeah,
Good
and
Friday, huh?
that's yeah,
Mine's too.
and that's what I'm saying, right? Like, sometimes this may be like it would be a better conversation at night, but because I'm pretty sure kids are most some kids are at school and things like that. I just thought it would be a better time. But the fact of the matter is that there are people that's in positions, right? That they, like he said, it's their perception or their thoughts of what God would want for you. But everybody has their own situation with God because you have that conscience that's your first preacher, and you got that spirit that's inside of you that's from God. So when that occurs, you don't have to go out to seek what God says. It's the God in you that's gonna tell you your rights from wrongs, your ins and outs, the right way or the wrong way. So I just people just use the term church, you know, as an edifice to where people congregate, and they're supposed to be filled with a dose of spirituality to get them through until to fill them up, to fill up their cups, quote unquote. But because a lot of the times it's a business, you're being filled with gas and water. It's not going to pump you the way it's supposed to pump you. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why I know that religion is blocking the true divinity, and now a lot of us are living in the permissive state that we live in today.
Yeah, one another problem that I'm seeing is that you know in the Ten Commandments it said do not use on God's name in vain. Um, I believe that there are a lot of people, especially people in positions of power, they literally do use God's name in vain. They use God's name for their self gratification, or they even use God's name for a system of control and power. You know what I'm saying? But it's important for us to distinguish the difference between the two. And not only that, we have to also come to the understanding that not everyone is doing that. I know through my personal anecdotal experience, I know that it is very easy for me to box in and say that everyone is like that. But in reality, I know that, there's common sense. I know that everyone is not like that at all. But it's so, well, when you be, especially like social media stuff, you see the evidence of a lot of people doing that. It will put you in that box and put you in that space to where you think like, man, all these people sitting up here using God's name in vain. All these people sitting up here doing all this weird and crazy stuff. But in reality, it's not. You have to have a what spiritual people call a sense of discernment to discern the difference between the people who are really doing that and people who are truly connected. That's like where words say connected to the Creator, connected to the Most High God, or connected to the source code, the universe. You have to know the difference in between that. But the only way you'll know that is that you, just like what you say, you have to have a personal relationship with the source. You know what I'm saying? So.
I'm still here. Go ahead.
I know that was it.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. He had to step away real quick. We still on. He'll be back. But the fact, the fact of the matter is that the way they weaponize God, right? The way they weaponize Him, the way they weaponize His word, it's not in its truest form, right? You can manipulate. You can misconstrue. You can do all of the things that you can to turn somebody against God, right? It's so much of a practice now. Well, you're gonna go to hell if you don't tithe, or if you don't give the offering. No, it's not. It's not that you're gonna get, or you're not going to get blessed. They put ultimatums on things that don't need to be put on. Allow them to do things freely. That's where religion comes in, because religion don't allow you to do things freely. It's a forced entity. But the Bible tells you to be a cheerful giver, right? If you praising God, you're supposed to be praising God with joy and happiness, not with malice and hatred, right? But there's people that's doing these things because it's the religion that is making them do it. It's not that they're doing it of their own free will, right? Like some people may say they got the Holy Ghost and only stand up and cheer because the pastor's getting to a point and it becomes a routine. All right, so the pastor getting ready to change his tone, and the music gonna start playing, and all of these things about to come about. It's about a routine. It's excuse me. It's about the church is supposed to save souls, renew souls, bring life into a soul that's missing. It's not supposed to be about a show business, but because they turned the Christ-like Christianity into a show, there are people that's going through what they're going through. There's people that's going to be experiencing things that Mary B is experiencing. My condolences and respect to you, Mary B. I just hate the fact that they are using the godlike entities to manipulate people and thinking that the things that they're doing, which is not even in line with the word of God that they're trying to give to each and every one of us, into play. And that's the downfall of religion. That's the disrespect that these people have. There are people just doing this because they may not be able to get it's a hustle for them. And it's the permissiveness that I was talking about in the earlier parts of the line. The permissiveness is saying, well, I'm going to gain something out of it. I don't really care if you gain something out of it. It's a permissive will. And instead of them being stricken or things of that nature, because there's a lot of people making their own churches and organizations and sectors, just like YouTube. They're making their own sectors. You can go all over the place. You can do disrespectful things, and they're gaining, while the people that are doing the right things are following the ways of the Christ-like being are not being highly respected, or damn should I say doubted that this is the right way to go. This is why I said the permissive will may become divine and the divine may become permissive. They could switch it because the ways of the world is going to make the opposite true about the divine and the permissive. So that's the thing that I'm saying. That's the thing that we're fighting each and every day as far as the divine and the permissive will. And so because of that, you're going to have situations to where, quote unquote, clergymen are becoming more fleshly than spiritually, and they're not even taking the time to get in touch with their soulful spiritual side, to where God is speaking to their spirit to give them a word. They may just turn this into a highly offering situation. I'm gonna say what the people need to hear, and so that way the offering plate looks great, instead of these people leaving with a new charge in their soul and their spirit. So that's the thing that we have to worry about as far as the divine and the versus the permissive.
Yeah, I say this all the time that I believe that the church is the same as us going to a hospital. Now whenever one goes to a hospital, it's normally it's for a short term, depending on the level of treatment that you need. Some people would be in a longer because they need a longer treatment, but ultimately the whole end goal is that you no longer be at the hospital at all. You'll be able to go out and be free, and you're charged to the doctors would give you a certain prescription or a diagnosis, whatever, right, and they would give you a treatment plan in order for you to be healthy. I believe the church is the same as that concept too, where one would go into the church and they'll give you your the preacher or the teacher, whoever it is, prophet, whoever it is, an appointed at that time. They'll look at you, they'll give you a diagnosis or whatever it is that you're dealing with, right? And they'll give you a treatment plan on how the way you should deal with that said thing that you're dealing with. Now, the whole purpose of that is for you to totally be healed from that, and you can move on where you won't come back. But however, doing for modern day churches, they do what pharmaceuticals do. Modern day pharmaceuticals do. Modern day pharmaceuticals, they'll create drugs, right? And this type of drugs to become addictive, right? To the point where you always got to come back and get more and more and more with every single time. And them drugs don't even heal you at all. It has what is known as a placebo effect. That's how the way modern day churches are right now, where it don't heal you. It has a placebo effect. That's why these people who are part of these churches, they only preach a certain type of sermon that they know that people want to hear, because it's a placebo effect. Every single time, where they just hear that the moment when they show hell, some people, the moment when they step into the parking lot, they start cussing each other out. They're about to get ready to run each other over and all kind of crazy stuff for the simple fact that's a placebo effect, and they're not literally healing. The church is not literally healing. So, Gabby, you remember in the Bob, right, in the Old Testament, you remember the whole purpose of the tabernacle, right? Where when God appointed Moses and Aaron to build a tabernacle, you remember the whole point of that?
You saying to what, the state of the Levites to where they have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
hold it
yeah.
down?
Yeah, that's the whole overall concept to why God appointed Moses and Aaron and the Levi priests and stuff to build the tabernacle. What was the whole point of that?
You saying what was the point of it? The point of it was, to keep that's, well, I want to say the spirit of God in the midst, because I believe that the Old Testament don't speak about spirituality as much as it does in the New Testament, right? Because I believe that the Old Testament is more like sight, visual, and the Old Testament, the New Testament is more spiritual. But the fact that they was trying to hold on to that spirit of God in that one little thing, which we come to find out later on that spirit could never be held in a box. That's why I believe Word is saying what he's saying about being in a box. You understand what I'm saying? That's another conversation for me, and if he comes back. But the fact that they try to put that in the box to keep the spirit around and with them, so people understand that that God is with them, is what allowed the people to see it visually. But soon as something went wrong, that box can't hold it down. Now we can do what we want to do, so on and so forth. They only act up when the tabernacle was not in the midst. When they, like, everybody's good in church. That's why That's where that's expression comes from. Everybody's good in church, but like you said, soon as you leave, soon as that pastor lock that church up, you're gonna become who you are. You're gonna become your natural self. You're gonna relax and be yourself. But when you in your spirituality allows your spirit to become its natural self, and it can overtake and overcharge and allow you to be the person that you're supposed to be, because your spirit is so wound up that it supersedes the fleshly desires. It supersedes your normalcy of the flesh, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And one key thing that I want not only you but everyone listening about the tabernacle and why I brought it up is because there were certain things that the Levi priest was required to do. If they didn't do these things, then they would die right off the bat. Like when you read in the scriptures, right, it'll say that in order for the Levi priests to enter into the holy of holiness, right, they had to tie a rope around them, right. And so if they enter into the holy of holiness, right, and they wasn't pure, then guess what? God will kill them right off the bat. And so they'll use that rope to pull that person all the way back. You know what I'm saying? But there was a lot of other requirements that was made for the tabernacle in order for it to function the way it is. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up is because where you read in scriptures, especially in Hebrews, right? In Hebrews, it talks about the tabernacle again, but the only difference is that instead of it actually being a physical place, it talks about the tabernacle being the ultimate sacrifice of the priesthood, which is the particular priest Hebrews is talking about is Jesus, Yahshua HaMashiach. You know what I'm saying? So the whole point is that you don't have to do all these additional requirements in order for you to have access to God. And that's the whole point of the physical point of the tabernacle back in the Old Testament, and the spiritual point about the tabernacle in the New Testament when it's talking about Jesus in Hebrews. It's about him being the ultimate priest. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, you don't need a third person party in order for you to get direct access to the Creator or to God. You know what I'm saying? And that was the point that I was making about church and everything, about, the building church and, the religious leader and going there. It should be a place where it's temporarily, where, just like I stated earlier, some people don't know that all this time they have direct access to the source or the source code. They don't know that because they've been taught that you don't. You have to do all these extra things or sacrifices to get there. You know what I mean? But you go into the church, you go into the building, right? And that leader actually teaches you the truth about that. Then once when they teach you the truth about that and they heal you, then you go and do you. You know what I'm saying? You go and you learn who you are. This also was the whole point about the synoptic gospel with Jesus when he was going through healing people. Every single time when Jesus healed somebody, right, or deliver them, he always said this. He said, go and be healed, or go and don't sin no more. And the reason why he say that is because it was the expectation that they came to a whole different level of understanding that they don't need Jesus in order to be healed by God. They already had a direct source all along. And that was the whole point of that.
Yeah. Good morning, Lady Shay. How you feeling this morning? I totally agree with that. And that's why, we're on agreement down the line up to where, that God is within each and every one of us, right? The job of the priest is to allow us to understand that. But because they turned it into a business, because they see the way the world is so lacking of understanding, they turned it to where you guys are going to need me every week, so that way y'all come on in. Look, I'm going to take from your storehouse and I'm going to make my storehouse bigger, and I'm going to take from your spiritual storehouse and make my physical storehouse bigger. instead of it being the other way around. You're supposed to manifest that thing into where, listen, God is within you. You got to tap into God. This is the way to tap into God, through the word of God, and allow it to strengthen your understanding of who you are and how much God is with you and in you, right? How much of it is, right? I always reflect back to faith of the size of a mustard seed, right? But we also have to understand that if faith is the size of a mustard seed, we have a drop of God in each and every one of us, right? So if the faith of the size of a mustard seed can develop and move mountains, how much of the drop of God could elevate you into your higher being? And we don't have those conversations in these churches because it's developed for you to be a watered down version of God instead of us being the people that we're supposed to be, right? We're supposed to reach out to people when they're going through a situation, right? Like like I said earlier, I prayed for Miss T because Miss T said that she was going through something. I just felt like it was the thing for me to do because it was a Christ-like thing to do. I'm not here to put hands on you and say you're healed. I'm just here to show you that the love of God is surrounding you. And soon as you say something, somebody may respond in the Christ-like attribute and pray for you. And hopefully, if you receive it, it turns out the way that it's supposed to turn out. But because we have been watered down and misused and things of that nature, a lot of people don't have that recollection or that receptiveness of a simple prayer or a simple "I love you" in the name of God, or whatever you want to look at it, because we have been so manipulated and watered down that it ain't no good if it don't feel good anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I agree with that. You know what? Your statement remind me of something that had happened to me around about 2017, 2018. I was support of a outreach team, and what I used to do in my city was that I used to go to homeless shelters and sign up to do outreach out there. That's so I could be a servitude towards the community. And so I used to frequently go out there a lot. So at this particular time, they had assigned me to to be the leader there, to oversee that, right? And so there were younger people that was out there doing the same thing, doing outreach, and that was part of different religious organizations, right? And so before when we went out to actually go and do outreach to the homeless community, I was telling the younger people of the team that I was a part of, right? I was letting them know, like, hey, when you go out in the streets, right, do not bring the energy as though as you're better than people, nor when you go out to the streets, don't go out to the streets thinking that these people need to be saved, they need to be delivered, nor don't go out to the streets and up here trying to quote Bible verses to them. They asked me, well, why we shouldn't do that? Because that's what they pastor taught them. I like, look, the reason why you shouldn't do that is because you need to have an understanding of the why. You need to understand why people are in the situation they're in. And the last thing they need to hear is somebody who look better than them come out and try to judge them. Some of them say, okay, agree to others. They stuck their nose up at me and they want to do them. So we got out into the streets and stuff, right? Walking around, and we was talking to the homeless, right? We was on not only talk to them, but we was on feeding them as well too. So a couple of them, right? They start to do ministry with them and stuff, or as they call, witness to them about the gospel of Jesus Christ. So they start talk to them. They always open up the same exact thing by saying, "Hey, brother, do you have a church home?" And I'm looking at them crazy, like they're homeless. They don't have a church home. Why are you asking them that? And so they started out by saying he have a church home. Then after that, they started going through this whole spiel, talking about why they should have a church home, why they should join a particular church or organization, different things like that. And I'm looking at them crazy, like, why are you doing this? Then they end up they pulled out these pamphlets and stuff that their pastor had told them to give to people, right? And I was looking, I was like, why y'all doing this? They look at, well, this is what our pastor told us to do, and so we're just following what our pastor said. Like, look, that is not gonna work. But hey, I'm gonna let you cook. Go ahead. And so I was standing there watching them do that, right? And they started speaking about the Bible. Of course, they was quoting the famous scripture John 3:16 to them, and they was quoting the salvation scripture, which is Romans chapter 8 to them, and doing all this stuff right there. One dude that was homeless, he sit back, he like, you know what? I don't give a damn about nothing that y'all talking about, because y'all don't understand my situation or why I'm in the situation I'm in. Then they kept back saying over and over again, talking about, well, we're here, we're representing a God. We just want to make sure that you're good. We want to make sure that you're saved. The one dude, he came back and told, like, I am saved. I always been saved. It is that life circumstances landed me to where I'm at. And so finally I had intervened. I like, well, brother, why don't you just tell them your story about, how the way you entered into the situation that you're in. He opened up and started telling about his story. Come to find out that this dude used to be not only a pastor, but he actually had one degree in divinity and all kind of stuff. And so life circumstances ended up happening. Circumstances that was out of his control. He ended up losing his job. He ended up losing his house, right? I think one of his relatives had passed away, and it made him start second guessing about his faith in God. And so therefore it caused a chain reaction to where he ended up ultimately turning away from the church, because the church started judging him about that, right? He turned away from the church, and ultimately he ended up becoming homeless out in the street. And so he was telling them that, and he was quoting scriptures and everything to them. You know what I'm saying? And so they're just looking shocked. And I was I was shaking my head. I was like, man, look, this is exactly the reason why I told y'all not to do that, because you don't understand people's circumstances. You don't know why people go through the things that they go through. You can't judge people like that. Only be a listening ear to why they are where they at. And so finally, when they got that lesson stuff, they understood where I was coming from, right? And so they walked off. They ultimately went to their pastor and stuff, right? And I was telling other people as well too, like, look, this is what we out here, right? We are out here to service the people, period. We're not out here to say that we're better than them, because we're not. Because just like the dude who's telling us earlier, that it could be one little circumstance that'll change the whole course of your life at any given time. So we always have to humble ourselves as those we are in the same exact situation that they're in, so you can have a level of understanding.
Yeah, listen, that's why, I totally agree with that, right? And, I think Lady Shay agreed with you too. She said that's the issue. One cannot express without the criticizing of doing something right, wrong, or if you are qualified. So it's each on heel self. The trauma is still so intense for some people that the trust is gone, right? And I understand what she's saying. And that's the thing, right? But like I said earlier, it's because of people like that, right? It's because the structure of this, I don't want to say new age religion, right? But the way this thing goes, you've seen programs, right? You see programs that say, you know what? Jesus loves you. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. You got to understand the people by allowing them to give their testimony. Even if the testimony don't align with God, your job is to sit there and be the ear. This is why I always say, if you guys have anything you feel like you need to express, and if I'm the last person in the world, I'm here for you. right? I want people to understand the sincerity. This is not a joke. This is not, to show that I'm better. No, because if you're doing the Christ-like thing, it's never about you. It's never about what your goal is. Because at the end of the day, your goal should be eventually their healing, their salvation, their encouraging, their encouragement in turning it around. Instead of it, well, I did this. No, the I should be in the small case, because at the end of the day, it's about the person, right? That's why I believe Miss T received my prayer, because I believe she understood I had nothing to gain from it, but for her to understand that somebody is here for her, right? That's why I asked for the permission to tell the story. So that way they understand, the people that's listening understand I did it for her. It wasn't for me. It was for her to understand that there are still some good people out there, right? It's the brick wall syndrome, right? You got the brick wall around your heart, so that way nobody could go through. So all you can do is continue to be like the people roaming around Jericho, right? But the only difference is these hearts are so hardened that it won't fall. So you need to just keep chiseling at it. Just be there for the person. Just be there. And once that small little crack gets through the wall, we always know that a little bit of light, a dot of light, could defeat the largeness of darkness. And that's the aspect that we have to go in at. We got to go in that. We are not here to force somebody to do something. We just should be here if they decide they want to have the conversation. And because the religion aspect has been so brainwashed to where you just go and do. No, you don't go and do. Jesus had to have a conversation with these people. He spoke to them first, and then he said, your sight is healed, or get up and walk, or your hearing is restored. Go out and be the testament and the testimony that you are supposed to be. That's what this thing is about. But because we've done so much, we have watered down the actual strengths of having the God that is within each and every one of us.
Hey, Gary, I want to add on to that too. Even with Jesus' ministry, right? He didn't give no type of requirement when he was going around healing people. He just did it. People just walk up to him like, hey, such and such, such and such. Jesus just healed them right in there. He didn't question it. He just said, hey, do you believe in me? He didn't say none of that. He didn't ask that you believe in God. He didn't say none of that. They had a problem. He was a service to them, and he did it. Now, the only time when Jesus confronted people, it wasn't the people, but he confronted the religious leaders who came back and had a problem with it, because the religious leaders believed that you have to go through all these different ceremonies or these rites of passage in order for you to qualify for the healing. Just like how it is in modern day churches right now, where they feel like that you have to go through this ceremony or rites of passage in order for them just to simply pray for you. For example, you know what I'm saying? You have to, where you want to go into the church, right? If you're a visitor, right, you go into the church, in order for them to remotely pray for you, you have to fill out what is known as a visitor survey card. You put on that survey card, if you believe in Christ. You put on the survey card whether or not you have a church home. You put on the survey card if you feel like you want to participate in tithe offerings, and they do that, right? And then right after that, that's when they have people walk up to the altar, and they go through this whole ceremony or religious rite of passage where they go and try to lay olive oil or whatever type of oil, frankincense oil, whatever oil they have at the moment, they'll put it on your head and pray for you. Then after that, they make you have a emotional response thinking that something happened to you, but in reality, it didn't. Then right after that, they keep you right there and they whisper in your ear saying, hey, if you don't have I know you have a church home, you want to join the church, then you thinking that it's the right thing to do, so you go ahead and just do it. So they walk you into the back of the church office, get all your information and stuff, and let you go through all this. As though as you signing a job application for employment of the church. But all in all, they doing all this stuff, and that person still is not getting the service that they need. But what else with Jesus, it was different. He didn't have them required to do all this additional stuff in order to do it. He just did it right then and there. And that was the point I was making.
No, I I agree with you, and I just think that as I begin to start to close this out, I just believe that being Christ-like, it allows you to understand that there is a way that you can be in your human form, to be so much and above the ways of the world, and your authenticity can be seen throughout the ways of the world, that people could receive you, right? Like today, uh I was about to say Miss T, not Miss T, Scorpio Mama. She made a request today, right? And I just did it because, like I said, at the end of the day, if people sees if they can discern this, the good in you, they are their expectation of you is to be that good person. So it's not to put on an act; it's to be who you are in your everyday life, right? So when she made that
Absolutely.
request, the request was fulfilled, right? I know that I did it with sincerity. I believe I hope that her and her family received it with that expectation of receiving it the way that she received it, or they received it, right? But the fact that this the way of the world, right? Because we understand that the prince of the world is running around doing things that that is the opposite of the Christ-like entity. It's so high in numbers that the little things that we do are not going to be received by the masses, because our noise is not being made loud enough, right? Just like we got so many people that's doing the wrong thing, but it's a minority of number, but it's a majority of a perspective, because it's seen so many times, right? We have to do the best that we can to show that there is a God within us. God dwells in us always, and we have to put that on display each and every day. That is the divine will versus the permissive will for me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that. That's a follow up with that. You said that we have to put on that display, right? How do that look like? That's for the audience, just because they don't understand that concept. How do you believe that look like for us to put on that display every single day without it looking like you being fake?
Well, if it's a way of life, that's why I say being Christ-like is a way of life, right? So, for example, if you actually sit down and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" and then somebody just say they okay, and then it's not that you force yourself, like, "Okay, are you okay?" If you feel like you want to talk about it, I'm here for you, right? That's a display, right? It's like on YouTube, right? They say your content is your character, right? So if your content is your character, you have no other choice but to be consistent in what you're doing in your everyday life. So if I go out and say, "You know what? Hey, how you doing?" and somebody turns around and say, "I would like to talk to you," and then we sit down and have the conversation. We have the conversation, and then they should have an understanding of who I am trying to be in my everyday life. If your content is your character, the display should be like a everyday commercial. It should be seen all the time. We rock with commercials because we see it all the time. They're consistent with it, right? Your favorite show is consistent in its message. So too, you should be consistent in your message. If you are a Christ-like being, it should be on display. It's an overflow of your inside of your Christ-like being poured out. That's the consistency that people should see each and every day. If you are that person, if you're not that person, they're going to see it and call it for what it is. It may take people time, but with God, if the God in you, you will always be on time. That's where that expression comes from for me. So that's the best way to show if you are living that life or you perpetrating the fraud.
Yeah, yeah, Gary. I'm challenging you on this. All right. Don't take it personal. All right. So here's my rebuttal on that. My rebuttal on this is that you do understand that there are people out there who are narcissists that do the same exact thing where they could put on a show perfectly for you. They could pretend to be this said person to the T, to the very T, as long as you're doing certain requirements that they deem as good for them. They will put on that 100% show for that said person. So once again, I'm asking you this question: What would be how would that look like for a person to literally walk Christ-like without them appearing as being a narcissist, without them appearing controlling and all that stuff? That what would be the evidence of that?
Well, I'm gonna answer it this way, right? If you Christ-like, you can't be a narcissist. We got to understand that first and foremost, right? A narcissist is for themselves. That's the permissive will that I was talking about earlier in the live, right? If you doing things of a narcissistic being, you're worried about yourself. So it's gonna always be conflicting with the Christ-like being, right? So if you come out there and say, you know what, I'm handing food. There's people handing out food for their own being, right? You know, people donate for taxes, right? But you got to have the discernment, right? People will still come to the narcissistic person because they're getting what they want, right? People turn wants into needs, right? When you're a Christ-like being, you feel like you need to be that way all the time. It's a consistency that's being shown to you. So a narcissistic person is going to be in need of showing that it's all about me. There's a difference of the beings, right? Like I said, if we're going to compare it to divine versus permissive, the Christ-like is divine. The narcissistic person is permissive. He still can do what he do, but it should be frowned upon everybody. What a divine will, it should be received by everybody. But because of the way of the world is today, you can confuse the two, and now the permissive could be divine and the divine could be permissive. But your everyday being, your Christ-like being should be shown every day, not just going out there to pray for people, but going out there and be a help to the community and not a hindrance. You go out and become that person that wants to help instead of helping yourself. That's the difference between the divine and the permissive, the Christ-like and the narcissistic, to me, right? Your consistency shows. For example, if we was to have this conversation with Mary B, like if Mary B was able to have this conversation with us, it would be her discernment to understand that this conversation is either being had with authenticity or is just for show, right? That would be a reflect of the conversation and the words that's being spoken of on this panel at this particular time. She would have to make that decision. If I know how I feel, but it's the way the message is being received as well that can be deterring for the person that's receiving it. Now, the person may have a hardened heart. You can be Christ-like and there's still a hardened heart. But your job will be not to give up on a person. With a narcissistic person will say, all right, well, the hell with it. I did what I could and I'm going to keep it pushing. I'm not gaining nothing if she don't come with me in the first place. But the caring person is going to sit there and endure. That's why the race is never given to the swift nor the strong, but those who endure to the end. A narcissistic person is not going to endure to the end because they don't gain nothing by enduring. Where you're trying to gain that person's love and affection by enduring and being patient with the person that you're trying to help and outreach to. That's the difference of being a Christ-like entity and being a narcissistic person. That is the greatest discrepancy that you should be able to see in hindsight, in your spiritual eyes, your physical eyes. That's the greatest. That's the answer that I will give you.
Yeah, I also consider this too. When we're once again when we look back into the ministry of Jesus, right? When we look back into his ministry, there was something different that Jesus was doing that no other one person was doing. Now keep in mind the religious leaders was in a way doing the same as that thing. They was spreading the word of God. They was teaching people the word of God. They was doing all these other different activities as well too. But Jesus had did something very, very unique, very, very different, very radical that set him apart from everybody else. And that thing, what he was doing, he incorporated healing. And there was a reason why the scriptures had Jesus doing healing. The reason why is because they wanted to distinguish the difference. They wanted to totally set him apart from everybody else. When you look at healing, right, the whole concept about healing that activate what is known as faith, right? Faith without works is dead. So it had to be a tangible manifestation of the faith of what people was believing in. Because keep in mind, the people that came, right, all their life, they was dealing with these different type of things that they need to be healing over, whether it's them been blind or they had some type of diseases going on. They had some type of faith that ultimately that they was going to get healed, and they stick to that. Even if their life was sacrificed and it never happened, they still had faith in that. So basically, Jesus was the manifestation of the faith that they was believing in, and it became action. It became works. You know what I'm saying? It became all that. So the difference between that and everyday person, everyday life saying that is that you have to look at their works. So you have to look at the works for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Just like what you saying, Gabriel. If they doing works in this for selfish purposes, they trying to get something out of it. At the end of the day, then you already know where they at, and that's how you could discern the difference. But if people doing it, they're selfless, just like what you're saying. They're selfless. They're not trying to get nothing out of return, all except for the satisfaction that they just want to see you at your highest potential. Then that's the people that you should be looking towards or recognizing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. That's why I put it in that format for that reason, right? Because at the end of the day, if your works is showing your faith, right? So if you doing the things of Christ, you have faith that Christ is the right way, your works is going to put that on display. That goes back to your content being your character. It's flowing from the inside out. So if your heart is telling you to do it, your body's going to go with it. Your mind, body, and soul is going to work with that very spirit that is within you. It's a trinity inside of you as well. So as long as you understand that that trinity is inside of you, the Christ-like being is going to activate it, and you're going to go out and to display it. A narcissistic person may not have that attribute. His trinity may be working, or her trinity may be working, but it's not working for the goodness of someone else. It will be working for the goodness of self. Where you, like I said, divine is selfless, permissive is selfish. Word, welcome back. What you got? What you got for us?
Oh, I wanted to tap into what the brother said too, because I mean, not, I mean, like the comparison, um, for that honestly it'd be easy because the lack of empathy is like the biggest description for narcissism. Like what he was sounding was more like Machiavellianism. People putting on the act to show good faith and you not being able to see. That's usually considered like Machiavellianism. But even that, what is the intention? So there's ways we can identify things, identifying the intention, understanding if a person is doing it for their own personal gain or the gain of the collective. Um, like just the whole understanding. I mean, I guess the whole totality of the conversation, especially like what Mary B was saying. Um, God, I think it's too much. We make things so supernatural that we forget that is a physical presence. Like when you saying, the divinity, mind, body, soul, is the Trinity within everything. And if we get away from the supernatural and just look at things for what they are, to be a good person is to be Christ-like. To do good things for people is to be Christ-like. You don't need a religion or anything to be a good person. It's literally within you. We are the manifestations of God. We are the ones that came to save ourselves. So, I mean, I understand like looking outside yourself, but I think that's the problem where it all started. We looking outside for something that's within. That's why we can't find it, or we have trouble locating it, or understanding it, or associating it. That connection has to start within. We have to understand even the language of God, right? Our emotion. When we feel good, when we feel bad, it's showing us how connected we are or how disconnected. Some people don't have that because even in the Bible it says that Eve and the serpent, the seeds of Eve and the seeds of the serpent will be at conflict forever. So some people don't have that divine spark within them, and that's why I'm beginning to understand more and more. Like, brother, I understand. Um, we supposed to be compassionate to everyone, but we got to be compassionate to ourselves too. To understand that some people we can't give our compassion to. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to handle it. And they misuse it, and then that backfires on us. And in turn, we didn't use that on someone who wasn't receptive to it when we could have utilized it for someone who was. And that's how growth starts. To grow, you have, like you said, if you already grown, you can't grow. So you have to be receptive to even compassion, empathy for me to give it to you because that's like going through a window that's closed. I mean, you can go through it, but you bound to get cut, or just go through a window that's open. And
Hey,
that's what I'm starting to understand that even more.
hey, underwear. I could totally relate to what you're saying. Well, when I first started off in ministry when I was younger, I believe that everything, all the actions that I was doing, it was, I believe that that's what I was supposed to do in that moment because that's what I was taught to do. But at the same time, I was looking from the outside. I didn't really truly know myself. I only know what I was taught. But the moment when different life circumstances start to arrive in my life, right, where it challenged me. It challenged that very core belief system. Then that's when I end up breaking down. Then that's when I end up losing a sense of self. I end up losing a sense of purpose as well too. But I end up start going on the journey to figure it out, to figure out who I really am, what I truly believe in, the whole concept about God, religion, the universe, the Most High, all that stuff, And finally, I had came into the realization of what you saying that at the end of the day, that God is within me. So. As me, saying, hold on, God, I'm not saying I'm the creator, but for us, the attributes of the creator is in me because he put it in me. He designed me to be that way. And so everything that I need, every desire that I want, all I got to do is have the thought and make that thought manifest itself to faith and make that faith manifest itself into works of action, that it will be so. Just like how God created us, or where he created the whole construct of the universe. It started off as a thought process, then it manifests itself to what it is right now. You know what I mean? Or even nurture itself. So I believe that a lot of us have to, ultimately go into the journey of being ultimately Christ-like, that the journey of discovery of who you really are, beyond what you've been taught, beyond the construct of, religion, in order for you to truly find out who you really are.
That's all fact, bro. And that's the thing too, is like a lot of people develop relationships outwardly, and when things happen and we ask why is this happening, we don't understand because we've been taught it's this entity outside looking down on us when it's us. And like I never tell people like I'm God. I don't feel I'm God. I'm not the creator. I'm just a fragment. I'm just a little piece. When
Yeah,
God animated
yeah,
Adam,
absolutely.
he blew breath into him. That was the essence. That was the divine spark right there. Is when God blew breath and animated. That was the connection. That's why they say everything is connected. If you look at the universal principles, you have the divine oneness. Everything is connected to the Creator. But it's our actions that manifest. Is our actions to truly show how connected to the creator we are or how disconnected. It's the things we do. That's why, like in the chat earlier, when you was like, how do we know, is the consistency, like Brother Brown was saying. It's the consistency of our actions, but also the intention of our actions. Why are we doing things? Are we doing it like you said earlier? Is somebody go feed some people? Are you doing it for the attention, the clout, the pat on the back, or are you doing it because you see these people hungry and they need to eat? You know, so I feel 100% what you're saying.
Yeah, I did. And the divine spark part, man, so you're a brother after my own heart because I understand universal law and principle too, but normally I don't use it because a lot of people don't know about it on that type of level. So I always speak on the level where I know where people is at. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, the divine spark part, man, that is a awesome comparison that you made because once again, when you look at the concept about when God had breathed the breath of life into Adam, you could look at it at a sense that God breath from he breathed his energy or consciousness or however way you want to interpret it as into Adam. So right off the bat, we have that manifestation of God. That's why also I was saying earlier that I don't say that I am God. I just say that I have the attributes of Him because God implanted that into me, just same way that He implanted it into us. But sometimes I also believe that the reason why people is not aware of that is based on social engineering or social programming, where we're not, where society or social norm teaches us that we should be a certain way and we should behave a certain way. And if you go contrary to the construct, then you're considered as being either a freak or is something wrong with you, or even it's something mentally wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? So you don't be accepted that way. And so people don't, they don't accept the reality for what it is. If that makes any sense.
It do, bro. And I know I keep talking, Gary, but my bad, bro. But even in that aspect, right, with people like that social construct, it's more people. Like if you look at my deeds, what I do, you know, um, it's hard to say that, like what Gary say, I'm not Christ-like, but it's the people because I don't accept their ideology of religion that feels like I'm the antichrist because I'm doing good deeds or I'm doing what's perceived to be good, but I'm not following God's law when I'm actually more in line with what God's law is than you are. I'm just
Yeah,
not,
it
you
typically be
know.
that way too, brother.
He's like, hold on, bro. I'm not persecuting you. I'm out here trying to help people. And while I'm helping people, you're persecuting me because I won't accept your ideology. I mean, my perception is different from yours. My interpretation is different from yours. But look what I'm doing. That don't matter because if I don't accept Jesus Christ as my savior, then I'm automatically going to hell. Like you can't even show me where that's in the Bible. Most people who come throwing a religion at you don't even know the word. They don't know when it was written, how it was written, why it's only 66 books. They don't know all this stuff. You don't even know what books are missing. You don't know what language it was originally written in. You telling me not to change God's word, but you translating it from multiple languages. That's the change because you don't even understand what happens when you translate. You don't understand the translation from transliteration, but I'm the bad guy. I'm following the philosophy and it's working for me. I'm just not, I don't have to worship. That's the thing. I don't have to worship. I pay homage. It's a difference. I'm giving thanks for what was already given to me instead of begging for something that I probably don't even need. I don't fall through desire, and I don't know, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, ain't that's the same as that situation that the story of Jesus in the Bible was going through with the religious leader. He had a different
Mhm.
universal concept about how the way it should be. He was trying to explain it to them on their level, and they just wouldn't accept it. They wouldn't believe it at all. And the crazy part about it is that they kept looking at him as as a normal man who does have knowledge instead of seeing that he have that divine knowledge within in him. You know what I'm saying? And so they became jealous of that, and they, just like you said, they was started persecuting him to the point where they had to find a legal means to terminate him. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that right now, where people like us right now, where they don't want to agree with what it's saying. They want you to only agree with their concept or their ideology. If you don't agree with it, then there's something wrong with you, and they're going to persecute you for it. They're going to condemn you for it. They're going to ridicule you for it. Ultimately, if they had the ability, they would even use the actual law of the land to have you locked up for it. Mary B, salute.
Good
Hello.
afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody on the East Coast. Good morning on the West Coast. Mary B, you're welcome. How you feeling? What's going on?
I'm doing great. I just took my break, so I
Okay,
just wanted to come up for a little bit. But
absolutely. Go ahead. You have the floor.
yeah, so no, but I was just trying to say, a lot of things had to do with me, be becoming an atheist, not being connected, with God, and I did come up in the Baptist church. So, but over the years, just trying to understand, and then humanity, like I said, humanity, and then I don't know. I just get to thinking like how can so many bad things happen, and for a God that's supposed to be so powerful, and it seems like like I said, I was slandered here on YouTube, and somebody was making fake accounts going around as me, talking down on people's dead relatives and things of that sort. Now that's something that I would never do, and kind of mess with my reputation a little bit, but and so I'm like, and this person always speaks on God this and God that, and so people was really believing him, and he's going around talking about I worship the devil and stuff like that. I do, I do witchcraft. I don't know anything about any witchcraft, or anything like that. Completely just, I know you guys have seen it where people just turn on people on YouTube, but I've never needed a fake account to address any situation ever. Um, but you have. I mean, I sit here and I think I'm like, well, how do not to say that the entity and stuff is not out there, but at some point in your life, all these things are happening, and then you really do have to think your faith gets tangled up in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how are these things able to happen? You know what I'm saying? Especially when am I perfect? No, I'm not a perfect person, but I would. Those are things that I would never do. So it's like, okay, you get to thinking like, well, how is it there's a God around and all these things are happening? Um, and even for me losing all my family members, my son losing his father, when my son was only 14 months old. So you just have, and it's like, goodness, I do everything that I'm supposed to do, and it just seems like a lot of things come my way, and I try to help people, and like I said, those who know me, they know me, you know what I'm saying? They know my character, and they have their discernment. And like I said, for the most part, like I always say, you know what, people gonna believe what they want to believe about you. But like I said, I'm like, there's so much evil in this world, and there's so many people doing so many evil things, and it's like, how is it that they get away with doing stuff like that? And it seems like nothing tragic ever happens to them, really. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, but I'm listening to everything. Like I said, I respect everybody's opinion. My son is 20 years old, and he believes in God. I don't ever tell my son nothing about there's no God, you know what I'm saying, or anything like that. I let him believe in what he wants to believe in, and I respect his beliefs, you know. And so I would never, judge anybody for believing in God and stuff. Like I always tell people, they always say, "Oh, Marion, I know you don't believe," and they apologize. And I always tell people, please don't apologize for saying anything about God around me, because that's what you believe in, and I respect that. Like I said, do I want everybody praying for me? Absolutely not, because there are entities that supposedly believe in God and they have a bad spirit. So if you have a bad spirit about you, I don't want you saying, please don't pray for me, because as far as I'm concerned, you could be praying for my downfall. So there's only certain people that I really trust praying for me, because I know they actually want the best for me. You know what I'm saying? And they're not going to be praying on my downfall.
Hey, Mary, I understand everything that you want saying for sure your journey of being an atheist, and I respect it too as well too. I want to consider this analogy that I'm gonna give you. All right, now this analogy is gonna sound crazy as hell, but believe me, just let me cook on it real quick before you go back to work. All right. So
Right.
here's the analogy. All right, let's consider the example of a spider. All right. One of the greatest attributes that a spider could do is to build a web. All right. Well, when the spider builds a web, when you look at the whole process of spider building a web, it is very complex. But at the same time, the spider know how to do it. The spider builds it perfectly and flawlessly, right, to the best of the spider ability. Now, you could want to consider that the spider is the creator, right? That spider is the creator, the spider is the architect of the whole entire web. And you could consider the web itself as things tethering to it, or you could consider the web as us as people. Now, where we're all connected together to the sources, which is the spider, all right? Now, if you ever look at the whole process of the spider after where the spider creates the web, the spider do absolutely nothing but to sit there and wait, right, until something happen to that web. Like say for example, if the wind blows, right, and the wind end up knocking one of the tethers of the web, guess what? The spider would go and repair it. The spider repair exactly how the way that it's supposed to be, right? Then it'll go back to its business. But the only time the spider will intervene into the web is when a object, like say for example a fly or a wasp or something, end up falling onto the web. That's when the spider actually come and attack what is affecting the web. Now, the reason why I'm making this analogy is because I believe that that's the same thing as with the creator. The creator designed us as people to be tethered to each other. And the reason why the creator doesn't necessarily intervene into matters of ourselves, because we're so tethered to each other, is that if the one spider were to do something to the actual design itself, is going to affect a lot of us, like say for example, let's say hypothetically speaking, God were to go back and God were to go back and heal you from cancer, right? He literally heal you from cancer, but the effect behind that is that the expectation is that not only he got to go and heal you for cancer, but he had to go and heal everybody in the world for cancer as well too, which ultimately is going to have everybody living longer life than require lifespan. Now, imagine that happening, right? And also imagining people living a long lifespan, and of course we're procreating, and even more people are populating the planet and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And we have all this life on planet. There's no death happening. There's only life. And so the reason why I'm using that extreme example is because I believe that's the reason why God doesn't intervene. He had to make things happen naturally. Just like I stated an example, like if the wind were to hit the part of the tether, it would tear up, but he'll just only repair the required part that's needed to keep life going. You know what I'm saying? Keep life sustained the way that it is. And I believe that that's how the way the creator is with us in our life, that certain situations have to happen for a purpose, for a reason. Maybe the reason is for, us to understand that, God is there. Maybe the purpose is to understand that there's choices. Within choices, there are consequences behind the choices that we make, and we have to deal with it, take accountability of it. Or it could be different other reasons that's beyond our knowledge of, what we see. But I also believe this, and I'll be done with it. I also believe that we see things tunnel vision. We only see things according to what's happening in our reality at that particular moment. So we judge behind that, which is nothing wrong with that. But if we were to just stop and see the overall bigger picture of everything, right, we'll possibly come to the understanding that a lot of things is connecting, a lot of things have a purpose and reasoning behind what it is.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. But once again, I'm not discrediting you for being an atheist, because like I said, I understand it.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Oh, I'm back. Okay. My I don't have no complaint about your stance on it. I just how do I say this? I just believe that. Listen, I'll ask you these questions, right? Are you a compassionate person, Mary B?
Yes, I am.
Do you love people?
Yes. Some. Not all.
Un- That's understandable, right? So if you love people and you have compassion for people, those are the entities that has been given to you in your DNA. I believe that within each and every one of us, there is a DNA dropping of a higher power. We call him God. Some people call him Creator. Whatever, whatever. Right? I
Right.
believe that's in each and every one of us. Right?
Uh-huh.
So I know that there is a goddess because you're in female form in you. The fact that the ways of the world has taken you from the higher power being itself, it does not mean that the goddess in you has left you. It's just the fact that the ways of the world has allowed you to bury your gift, bury your attributes in your storehouse. We all are, we I believe that we all are storehouses. We have been born with gifts. We have been born with all the attributes we need to get by in the world. The way that this goes to me is that there are entities that are willing to strip you from your godlike attributes or your goddess like attributes, as I'm speaking to you, because at the end of the day, it's in you already. So it makes you doubt, and it also allows you to doubt the goddess inside of you as well, which is why it's buried within you. So while I understand why you don't believe in the higher power, I'm here to tell you that the higher power is within you automatically. Good afternoon, Selena. How you doing? But at the end of the day, it's already within you. So while you may not believe the creator or God is outside of you, he is within you. And that's what makes you the unique person that you are today. So while I'm not telling you to change your thoughts or your attributes, I just want you to understand that there is a creator, and the creator is inside of you as it is inside of each and every one of us here throughout the world. It's up to us to find out how much of him we can pull up out of ourselves. That's what I have. Word, you got anything?
If you don't mind, because I know Mary, and I just got a question. So, like, I understand you don't believe in God, like some entity like they explained in the book or anything like that. But do you feel that, how do you look at life? Like, what, do you feel like something designed this or just like came into existence? Do you feel something? is higher than us.
I know she dropped down, so okay. She said, "I believe in a higher power. I just don't believe in a person in the sky."
And see, that's exact. So what I want to do, that's what I was. That's just, I don't like when you were saying she was disconnected. I don't feel she disconnected. Just like me knowing her, well, I don't know her, but just being around her, interacting with her a lot, and like I knew she felt like. So even like when you talk to some atheists, it's not like they don't believe that something like a higher power creator is there. They just don't believe it's somebody in the sky. And even if you believe it's somebody in the sky, like it's a person or have human attributes and stuff like that, um, that's a God. There's many type of gods. I mean, even from the term God, there's many. Even in the Bible, the Hebraic, it was multiple gods. It was always gods. It was gods. You know, they didn't change that really into Christianity when they got God, when they went into monotheism. Even Elohim, meaning the powerful ones, multiple gods. Let us make man, and that's multiple gods. So even if you believe in that, what she's saying is like, no, I don't believe in that, nothing outside. Let's go, supposed to do this. No, and I understand that because I don't. You know, I look at it like this: we are all fragments of the Creator here to express, I mean, experience and expand consciousness. So we are the expression of God. So the reason God don't intervene is because we supposed to. Like the brother was saying with the web, that was the concept. You know, it's us to take care of us, it's us to express us. So all of us got different gifts and abilities and interested and desires. But you got to understand, the creator creates everything, positive and negative. There's duality within everything. So just like the creator got fragments expressing a higher level, you got fragments down here expressing a lower level. You need bad to know what good is. There's no good without bad. This is just existence. This is just reality. You know, you have to have those bad things happen to you to appreciate the good things happen to you. You know, we have to go through things to understand, to learn, to appreciate, to expand. That's how you expand. Think about how everything, like, observe nature. Everything grows through adversity. Even us as sperm cells trying to get to the egg. Then once you get to the egg, you gotta hope the mama body don't kill it because it has to form a shell and it has to inject antibodies so the white blood cells of the mother ain't fighting a foreign body because it's a foreign body. So you constantly going through adversity. So even as we get older, the adversity gets we get more adversity. When you're young and vibrant, you ain't thinking about when you're 67, you gotta take all these pills, do the special diet, you get geriatric shoes. You know, you ain't thinking about everyone you coming up with gone now. You ain't thinking about that. You just having fun. So adversity is necessary. Negative is necessary. It's just to give us clarity of positive. You know, how will we be Christ-like people if we didn't have people doing the opposite? That's just existence. I mean, is probably hard for us to comprehend because we have emotions. But when you logically think about it, it makes sense. You know, it sucks going through stuff in life. I'm legally blind. I can barely see. You know, my life changed forever. It sucks. But guess what? That's reality. It happens for everyone on different levels. So it's something for me to learn within this, not only for me, but for the people behind me. If my kids, if the people around me see how strong I am, persevering through this, guess what? That's gonna give them strength. It's to show, I mean, for me, I have to, it's just the inner desire to show the things that need to be shown, to show the things that people say is impossible. People say, oh, men are like this. I ask any woman I've been around, I never flirted with, always showed them respect. Black men who marry outside their race hate black women. I'm a champion for black women. Things like this exist. There's unicorns in the Bible. But
Hey,
let me jump
hey,
down, brother. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
hey, hey, brothers. Just about listening to Mary B. response, not only when she came up on the panel, but also in the chat. Do y'all honestly believe that she's really an atheist? Because just based on her response, that doesn't sound like the attributes of an atheist. That sounds like more the attributes of what you said, and it also goes into the lines of being, metaphysical, understanding metaphysics as well too. What do y'all think? Or could I be wrong?
Yeah, I don't. But even like people be like, well, what are you? You spiritual? I'll be like, not really. You meditate? Not really. Look, nah, it's no bot. I'm divine, and I think that's what Mary is. I think that's why I click with her. Like she just exists, and she's just doing what she feels needs to be done, and that is, I mean, that's all our mission, really. We all here to expand consciousness differently. That's just the reality. I mean, you can observe nature and you can see how things go. You can go within yourself and find it yourself. But I promise you, that's the conclusion you're gonna come to. If you, I can show you through psychology, I can show you through metaphysics, I can show you through religion. The whole purpose is to expand consciousness, to expand, to go forward, to multiply, to be fruitful, to do the right thing, to treat others, to grow one heart, one beat. We are supposed. What's happening is we're trying to connect, and we're supposed to expand not from one another, but consciousness itself. But to connect is to expand consciousness too. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's the whole point. When in the biblical Bible, Abraham had the interaction with the one burning bush, and the burning bush simply said that I am. That's the whole concept of that. It's all about the whole consciousness because there's no box per se that's holding back what is. You know what I'm saying? So for us, Mary B, I believe that she probably need to just denounce that she's an atheist because she's honestly not an atheist at all. But what say you, Gary?
I I believe that you guys are leading right into the segue, right into the title of the live, right? Because she can be divine, she can have these all of these entities, right? As long as she's doing what she needs to do, she's divine. But it's the permissive state that where you turn around and say, you know what, you start looking at yourself, you start you start doing things in a selfish manner. I I have very few conversations with Mary B. But when you can discern somebody, when you can turn around and just try the spirit and see if the spirit is of divinity or not, I believe she has that. So the fact that she's selfless makes her divine. The fact that the fact that we all have these entities of discernment can allow us to see if it's permissive or divine will. She has that in her. I just believe that she's doubting the concept or the aspect of the 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 heavens and the skies and the God in the skies and things of that nature. But I know she understands that there is a goddess inside of her. She acts she lives that way pretty much every day. But the fact that it's a conflict that's going on, it allows her to doubt the divinity of the biblical sense of the God. She knows there's a creator. She knows there's something that is higher than us. I don't think she believed in a Big Bang theory. She understands that there's a creator. But The fact that she understands that is the simple fact of her divine living, right? She still has the compassion. She still has the Christ-like entities. So I know that she's not. I don't. I know she's not an atheist. I just believe that she is having a conflict with the terminology of the God in the sky of that aspect. So that's just where I'm going to go with what I see in Mary B, because she's a beautiful person. She's a beautiful person inside and out. And I, like I said, just this conversation alone, just her words, word gives you life, right? Because at the end of the day, if you speak at a certain fashion, you can discern it just through words. If God made life through words, he can also allow you to see a person's character through them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, bro.
So with that being said, I know I know my 33 brother dropped down. Um, it's getting kind of late. I know we've been up here for a while. Urban, what's your final thought about the conversation of the day?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Gary, for inviting me on to the panel. Had a very, very great conversation where we both learning from each other, and it's also our expectation that the subscribers is getting a lot of information out of the things that we're sharing collectively together. So salute on that. Now the my final thoughts is that we're going into what is Good Friday now. Today's Good Friday. Then a lot of us we're going to celebrate either Easter or Resurrection Day, however way you want to call it. My final thoughts on that is that if you're participating in this belief system, make sure that you understand the purpose of to why you're doing it. You're not doing it out of tradition. You're not doing it because the pastor told you doing it. You're doing it because you're doing this in remembrance of what Jesus Christ did for you, or wherever now you want to call them. That's remember the purpose, the true intentions, the true purpose behind it. So you have the opportunity to have the understanding of being Christ-like and walk in that attribute every day of your life to the best of your ability. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I would like to thank you for coming up, Urban, taking some time and having this conversation and being an insightful person and adding some jewels to the conversation. Like I said, iron sharpens iron, and because we had this conversation, you have sharpened me to a better understanding and a different perspective of the conversation of divine will versus permissive will. My final thought is this, right? On this day, Good Friday, right? This, whether we believe Christ was here, or the story is real, or whatever, we're just going to take the story as it is, right? The fact that he gave his life, well, he didn't commit a crime, right? So we understand he was innocent, right? So the fact that he gave his life of a crime he didn't commit, the innocence of it all, and the figurative sense of him being the lamb in the bush instead of the ram in the bush is what today is about. It allows us to see that you can be a divine person and be ridiculed. You could be a divine person and be assassinated of your character. It allows you to see that you will not be accepted by all people. As long as you do the divine will, you're in your divinity, right? To where you're doing the permissiveness, you're only going to think about yourself, and you cannot be a help to somebody if you're only worried about yourself. So that's for me the difference between the divine will and the permissive will. Once again, divine is selfless, permissive is selfish. And with that being said, I would like to thank everybody who stayed and had this conversation with me. Mary B, Miss T, Scorpio Mama, Commander, and all of those people that was here earlier. It was a great conversation. But when you have a great conversation, time has no control over what knowledge is being given unto the people. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. You guys have all been a blessing to each other and to me as well. Let's go on and have this great Friday. Let's start the great weekend. I'm pretty sure y'all subscribe to Urban, please, because he's not just a great speaker. He's also a DJ, which he'll probably celebrate. He may celebrate this weekend, but y'all check him out. He's more than just a one-trick pony, as they would say. He's a man with many gifts.
Yeah, I'm a jack of all trade.
Yeah, that part. Then y'all go ahead and y'all subscribe to him. Let's link up with each other because we all can help each other become our better self. Greatness is our goal, and without greatness, we are just regular people, and we're not regular people if we're in our divine selves and will. So,
make sure y'all drop my channel in the chat as well too. I not only do DJing, but I also talk about different other conversations as well too. Mainly talking about relationships and stuff. But I may be kind of segue and start resuming doing a lot of spiritual conversations too pretty soon. So we'll see. But sub up. sub up.
Yeah, sub up to this awesome person who is a House of Urban podcast. That's where he's at. Thank you, Commander. And like I said, with that being said, let's all be great. Let's all have a great weekend. Until next time, I'll holler at y'all. I'm out.